My battleship can be upgraded. Chapter 1. Carrying a battleship game auxiliary system, he transmigrated to a star-faring era where battleships represented the ultimate military power. This star-faring era of massive ships and rivers of stars was the ultimate romance for men. Wang Dong believed his transmigration journey had a beautiful beginning and would also have a perfect ending. Regrettably, his life only lasted a short 34 years. At the age of 20, Wang Dong had a fortuitous encounter, acquiring a battleship that could continuously evolve and grow. However, due to his own imprudence and objective factors, he got into a series of troubles. Ultimately, after acquiring the battleship, Wang Dong was basically in a state of being relentlessly pursued. Relying on the auxiliary system's help, he struggled for over 10 years before eventually falling into an ambush and being ganged up on and beaten to death. Fortunately, thanks to the auxiliary system's one-time hidden function, he returned to over 10 years ago. He was 20 years old, just about to have that life-changing fortuitous encounter. 3 minutes into his rebirth, Wang Dong had basically accepted this fact. Fate is so lovable and hateful, for though she usually hides herself, she will suddenly give you the greatest surprise in the most critical moments. One moment he was experiencing the feeling of near death in a shattered battleship, the next he was bathed in a breeze smelling of rust, enjoying the solid, weighty feel of his feet on the planet's surface. Brother Wang Dong, have you picked your spaceship? If you have, hurry up and get to work, there are people waiting in line behind you. The scruffy bearded administrator urged with a smile. For a mining company, quality miners like Wang Dong, who caused no trouble and were efficient, were highly welcome trading partners, naturally receiving a bit more preferential treatment. If it were another miner dragging their feet like this, taking a full 10 minutes to choose a rental spaceship, they would have long since been roared at by a fierce-looking individual, spittle flying, instead of being treated so gently. Over decades, the auxiliary system had long since become an inseparable part of Wang Dong's life. According to the data displayed in the upper right corner of his vision, Wang Dong picked out the best-conditioned spaceship among the dozens of mining vessels in the spaceship dock. Compared to other spaceships, the hull of this mining machine too, in Wang Dong's auxiliary vision, showed all its components in a green status, indicating good condition. There was also an overall evaluation score. F-class near-space mining spaceship. Status: 91%. No growth potential. The mining machine 2 near-space mining spaceship was an old model, over 100 years old, but here, it was considered a first-rate good. Its rare streamlined body among near-space mining spaceships made it particularly elegant. An F-class rating meant that it was an unranked standard among near-space mining spaceships. However, for this remote mining area planet, it was actually quite good. I'll take this mining machine too. Could I trouble Brother San to grant permission? Wang Dong said with a smile. All right. Administrator Zhou Lao San opened the portable optical computer on his wrist, neatly selected the mining machine 2 Wang Dong indicated from the list, and then touched it to Wang Dong's portable optical computer to complete the authorization. Wang Dong calmly called up the spaceship's login interface and, with the help of the tractor beam, skillfully entered the spaceship cockpit. Just like before. Even though it had actually been over 10 years since he had touched this old model of mining spaceship. Don't ask, just assume it's skill. Recovering muscle memory was actually not that difficult. The 53-meter-long hull, propelled by 4 high-power industrial heavy particle engine nozzles, easily left the docking bay and soared upward. Until it broke through the planet's atmosphere and entered space. Adjusting the automatic navigation route, Wang Dong let out a slight breath. Only at this moment, submerged once again in the vast, boundless, cold, and immense cosmic space, did Wang Dong truly, slightly, relax his nerves. The rebirth came too quickly, he still needed his thoughts to wander a bit longer. This was planet KQ-03, the only habitable planet in the Blackstone Barony mining area starfield. Wang Dong had lived here for a full 20 years in his previous life. Looking back now, he realized he still didn't understand it enough. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong knew its orbital period, rotation period, and even its trajectory, as well as the asteroid belt mining area nearby, which contained rich mineral types. He also knew that KQ-03 was home to 13 million people, had 3 mining companies stationed there, and possessed a relatively complete primary metallurgical industrial system on the planet. The most powerful person was the governor appointed by the Barren Territory, and a guard fleet of 12 battleships was permanently stationed there. But apart from the information above, at that time, Wang Dong didn't know that among the various forces on KQ-03, the Kongsha Merchant Guild had the loudest voice, the Tianyu Merchant Group was the most astute in business, and the Quinao Guild Hall was the most well-informed. Being completely ignorant of these things, even if he subconsciously tried to conceal the fortuitous encounter he later acquired, he didn't expect that his so-called concealment would not only be brazenly exposed in the eyes of those with ulterior motives but also become a traceable clue and a kind of intelligence commodity, sold everywhere. Not knowing himself or his enemies, it was no wonder Wang Dong in his previous life ended up in such a predicament. Call up the auxiliary system. Wang Dong's mind stirred, and in his thoughts, a familiar Azure interface appeared as if summoned. Battleship Game Auxiliary System. Permanent Function 1. Scan. Permanent Function 2. High-speed human-computer data interaction unavailable. Optional Function 1. Alien space signal capture unavailable. Optional Function 2. Module growth value doubled unavailable. Optional Function 3. Module trait selection unavailable. Advanced Function 1. Source points acquisition doubled unavailable. Advanced Function 2. Alien space civilization level restriction lifted unavailable. The auxiliary system has many functions, but currently, only scan can be used normally. This permanent function allowed Wang Dong to identify the quality and status of spaceships and shipborne modules wherever his gaze fell. At the moment of his rebirth, Wang Dong was using this permanent function to identify the best conditioned spaceship among those regularly maintained mining vessels in the docking bay. This was also Wang Dong's biggest asset in his previous life, relying on it to become an excellent miner and accumulate his first pot of gold. Each time he chose a spaceship, it had a better condition than others. As long as his skills were up to par, his harvest would naturally not be bad. Apart from this permanent function 1, there was nothing else below. It displayed, unavailable. Unlike his previous life's confusion, the current Wang Dong knew that the main functions of this battleship game auxiliary system would only be fully utilized after he possessed a suitable battleship. Its functions were very practical and powerful. The only regret was that the threshold for using it was a bit high. A battleship, for ordinary civilians like Wang Dong currently, was basically an unattainable dream. The system was intact, seemingly identical to before his rebirth. But Wang Dong knew there were still some differences. The system's only hidden function was to provide a not-so-long-time rewind. Wang Dong had already used up this one and only chance. This was the information the system gave after his rebirth. Fortunately, the timing of the rebirth was just right. All regrets had not yet had a chance to occur. Wang Dong got a chance to truly start over. In his previous life, after transmigrating to a star-faring era where human civilization dominated the stars, and equipped with a protagonist-exclusive system-type Golden Finger, Wang Dong was happy and full of ambition. Heaven-born talent must be useful, and even more so for a transmigrator with a Golden Finger, who wasn't born to do great things. As for self-worth realization, that was trivial. If he didn't contribute something to the entire human civilization, he wouldn't even dare to greet others. Unfortunately, reality always slaps you hard in the face like freezing rain. Until it turns you into a pig's head, forcing you to face a bleak life. Wang Dong in this life dared not be so naive again. From KQ-03 to the asteroid belt mining area, it would take about 13 hours with the mining machine II's high-powered engine. The route along the way had long been cleared and was regularly maintained. Wang Dong did not need to manually pilot the entire journey. Once in the automatic navigation phase, it could be fully handed over to the ship's onboard optical computer for control. After setting Mining District Entrance 2 as the destination, Wang Dong left the control panel. He methodically performed a set of stretching exercises, followed by a set of core activation movements, and finally advanced upper body muscle training. The workout was substantial, lasting a full hour. Wang Dong was drenched in sweat. Without the physical conditioning from forging technique cultivation, my body's quality is still a bit lacking. Shaking his head, Wang Dong muttered to himself with some dissatisfaction. It's a pity that the privileged class controls the entry requirements for forging technique cultivation, and in a remote backwater like the mining area Starfield, the difficulty is simply too great. From ancient times to the present, the existence of classes in human civilization has always been unavoidable. Even in the interstellar era, where theoretical productivity far exceeds actual demand, it remains the same. Compared to the planetary era, the privileged class of the interstellar era, relying on the various high-end resources they control or monopolize, has made their status even more secure. In the interstellar era, the absolute gap between classes is far greater than in the planetary era. But Wang Dong was not worried about this. The current time was June 1st, star calendar year 10103, and only a mere 10 days remained until the turning point of destiny from his previous life. If all went well, in 10 days, Wang Dong would be able to touch that class. Wang Dong was accustomed to using the star calendar year, rather than some local timekeeping calendar. The orbital and rotational periods of each planet are different. The definition of 24 hours a day rotational period, and 365 days a year orbital period, only applies to humanity's old home, Blue Star. Therefore, strictly speaking, each planet has a calendar that conforms to its actual specific conditions. But for groups who live in space for extended periods or frequently travel between multiple planets, a fixed calendar is clearly needed as a standard to facilitate time calculation. The star calendar is such an existence. It sets up a timekeeping calendar, based on the calculation method of 24 hours a day and 365 days a year, that can be used throughout human civilization. 13 hours passed in a flash. While sorting out the connections in his mind, the mining machine 2 had already reached its destination. Arriving at Asteroid Belt Mining Area Entrance 2, automatic navigation is about to end. Please switch to manual mode in time. The ship's onboard optical computer's prompt tone was monotonous, rigid, and dull. This mining machine 2 close-quarters mining vessel was not only an old model but also low-spec. It didn't even have personalized voice prompt functionality enabled. Lao Niu, who was in charge of procurement, was indeed as stingy and miserly as ever. Wang Dong had already taken his seat at the control panel. After hearing the prompt, he pulled the joystick and switched driving modes. In the complex airspace conditions within the asteroid belt, continuing to use the ship's onboard optical computer's automatic navigation mode would surely be making things difficult for the mining machine II's 486 level optical computer. It truly couldn't handle it. The asteroid belt mining area in the starry sky is not like a mining district on a planetary surface, where the location is fixed. It is always in motion, just as planets always orbit stars. Whether relative to the outside or within the asteroid belt itself, it is constantly in motion. So, the so-called entrance 2 does not refer to a specific entrance on the asteroid belt. Instead, it is because here, the mining company has built a relatively fixed micro-advancing base in the airspace near the asteroid belt. This helps miners accurately pinpoint their location and provides a certain level of logistical support. Operating the mining machine 2, Wang Dong easily docked the spaceship with the advancing base at entrance 2. This was a spindle-shaped steel structure, dark and robustly reliable. Regular lights flickered on it, like a heartwarming traveler's cabin in the pitch-black wilderness. It was the lighthouse for interstellar miners. How are things? Connecting to the regional short-range communication network with the advancing base as a node, Wang Dong inquired with the observer inside the advancing base while simultaneously activating the mining machine II's detector to observe the nearby asteroid belt. The flow rate is normal, and the next clear window should arrive within an hour. Dong Zhe, welcome. A warm and energetic female voice came through. Wang Dong was slightly startled, blinking his eyes. Leah, is it your shift today? It's the first week of the month, so of course, it's my shift. Dong Zhe, you even forgot which shift the cutest little Leah is on, that's truly heartbreaking. The enthusiastic female voice became faintly sad, yet so obviously artificial that it was instantly recognizable. It's her, golden hair, blue eyes, big face, 1.8 meters tall, 180 catties, the patron saint of all interstellar miners, little Leah. A catchy melody involuntarily played in Wang Dong's mind. She was an enthusiastic and cheerful big sister, always able to infect others with her warmth. In the dead silence of the universe, being able to feel such warmth was a kind of happiness. After all, not seeing her for over a decade, forgetting her shift schedule was quite normal. And now, having just been reborn, Wang Dong stated that he didn't care if this behavior seemed abnormal. Occasionally forgetting the shifts of the personnel, what's the big deal? Besides Leah, this overflowing with enthusiasm big sister, there weren't many other advancing base duty personnel that minors would pay attention to. Laughing heartily, ignoring the big sister's teasing, Wang Dong chatted with her briefly, mainly about the recent movements of the asteroid belt and whether there were any unusual changes. Although in his previous life's memories, this asteroid belt mining area was always relatively stable, when it came to matters concerning his own life safety, no amount of caution was too much. This was also a habit of all interstellar miners. Your life is your own, if you don't value it yourself, who else can you expect to value it for you? Oh, by the way, Lao Shi also chose entrance 2 this time. Keep an eye out. Finally, Leah gave Wang Dong a small warning. Lao Shi. Wang Dong thought for a moment, combining the familiar surroundings, and finally pulled out the distant memory from his mind. After transmigrating, with the aid of the golden finger, Wang Dong was always able to select the mining vessel in the best condition from a group of them. Moreover, with the golden finger's help, Wang Dong could monitor the specific condition of his own spaceship in real time. This allowed him to fully utilize the extreme performance of the spaceship he was piloting when necessary. Consequently, Wang Dong, with his abundant capital, was often able to delve deep into the mining district and bring back more harvest than other miners. Although Wang Dong had concealed the existence of the golden finger well, with the final harvest laid out, it was inevitable that some people would become envious. Lao Shi was one of them. Before Wang Dong, Lao Shi was the boss among these interstellar miners. Because his skills were good, and his luck wasn't bad. Even if his character was lacking, it didn't affect his status. After Wang Dong arrived, with his rapid progress, he directly impacted Lao Shi's status among the miners. And so, Lao Shi began to fixate on Wang Dong. Yo, isn't this our star miner, Dong Jie? Dong Jie, my mining skills aren't great, could you give me some pointers on how I should move? Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. A slick voice suddenly cut into the regional network communication. In Wang Dong's mind, a greasy middle-aged image correspondingly appeared. A receding hairline, thick lips, and a pair of dull, small eyes. Wang Dong suddenly felt a grievance towards his excellent memory function. Why did he remember such low-quality information so clearly? His brain was already mature, why didn't it know to be self-aware and perform a regular cleanup? After a brief moment of thought, Wang Dong didn't reply with a sharp tongue. Whether it was before he transmigrated to this interstellar era, or in his previous life before his rebirth, Wang Dong was not the type of person who excelled at verbal sparring. Therefore, when faced with such provocation, he would only choose his usual response. Tisk, come fight. If you want to fight, then fight, it's that simple. Yo ho, another good show is about to start. Come, I'm setting the odds. Lao Shi wins, 1.5 to 1. Dong Jie wins, 1.1 to 1. Gambler, are you tired of living? Everyone loves to see Dong Jie thrash Lao Shi, do you dare to set odds and not be afraid of losing your shirt? Not afraid. At worst, I'll work for free on this mining trip. But if Dong Jie goes easy and lets Lao Shi win, you know what I mean. We know, Lishui manner, right? Hey, why does Dong Jie always say, tisk, first? Nonsense, if I knew, I'd be Dong Jie too, ha. The communication channel was instantly filled with a cheerful atmosphere. There were quite a few miners gathered around the advancing base, waiting for the asteroid belt's clear window. Seeing Wang Dong give his usual direct response, they all became joyous. In the cold, silent universe and the monotonous mining life, without this optimistic attitude of seizing every interesting thing, it would indeed be too difficult to endure. Between men, the most direct confrontation is naturally more likely to ignite passion. As soon as Wang Dong's declaration of battle was made, Lao Shi achieved his goal, but still didn't quiet down. He continued to babble incessantly. It wasn't that he was verbose, he wanted to provoke Wang Dong's emotions through a verbal offensive. Wang Dong simply set his speech to display as text in the communication channel, and his ears were finally relieved. The contests between miners, of course, didn't rely on the pitifully low-powered self-defense laser guns on their mining ships. These self-defense laser guns couldn't even penetrate G1 grade aerospace steel plates, the lowest threshold for entering space, and basically could only deal with ultra-small space debris. Miners, of course, competed in their professional skills, such as ship control, or mining operations. What Wang Dong and Lao Shi were about to compete in was who could control their ship to go deeper into the mining district. The asteroid belt mining area was already famous for its complex airspace conditions. The deeper one went, the more variables there were, and the more complex the airspace conditions became. A mining ship that ventured deep inside, with even a slight mistake, would meet with destruction and loss of life. Of course, there is always a reward for effort. The mineral veins hidden deep within the mining district were also richer. The more remote a place was, the better preserved the mineral veins were. As long as one could successfully enter, the harvest would undoubtedly be far greater than in the peripheral areas of the mining district. The ability to reach deeper into the mining district was one of the important factors in measuring an interstellar miner's skill. This method of competition was also the best way to demonstrate a miner's courage and skill. Naturally, it would attract enthusiastic support from the miners. This wasn't the first time Lao Shi had provoked Wang Dong and challenged him to a contest. Wang Dong was very clear about his intentions. Lao Shi always believed that the reason Wang Dong could always have a greater harvest than other miners was definitely because he possessed some unknown information about the mining district. And not simply a matter of skill. In terms of ship control and mining techniques, Lao Shi didn't believe he was inferior to Wang Dong. Perhaps Wang Dong had discovered a larger mineral-rich zone. Or had ascertained some operational pattern of the asteroid belt mining area. Or some other unknown secret. Lao Shi often intentionally or unintentionally followed Wang Dong while he was mining, trying to uncover Wang Dong's secret this way. And he would occasionally provoke Wang Dong. Wang Dong was endlessly annoyed by this guy, who was like sticky candy. Relying on his decent skills and control over his ship's performance, it wasn't difficult to shake off Lao Shi with a bit of effort. But even if he shook him off 10, 20 times, the next time, Lao Shi would again come up to provoke him with his greasy middle-aged male voice. Or silently follow behind Wang Dong. Like a buzzing fly constantly circling around him. Making one wish they could pull out its intestines, wrap them dozens of times around its neck, and then give a hard tug. The world would be quiet. In fact, in his previous life, Wang Dong did just that. It was after this competition that Lao Shi disappeared from Wang Dong's life forever. The world did become quiet, but unfortunately, only for a short time. The repercussions, however, followed like a shadow. Same rules, we depart as soon as the clear window arrives, and the winner will be decided by the route map upon final return. Still the greasy middle-aged male voice, Lao Shi reiterated the rules of the contest. All right. Wang Dong readily agreed. The asteroid belt was always in a state of flux. Due to varying sizes and masses, as well as different turbulent trajectories, the celestial bodies in the asteroid belt moved at different speeds. And at the outermost edge of the asteroid belt, there was often a turbulent zone composed of small and micro-celestial bodies. These small and micro-celestial bodies orbited at high speeds around the outer edge of the asteroid belt. They were enough to pose a fatal threat to mining ships operating in near space, which had thin armor and were thin-skinned but big-filled. Once struck by these high-speed celestial bodies, a mining ship simply couldn't withstand many impacts. If a critical part was damaged, then often even the escape pod couldn't guarantee the miner's safety. Therefore, before official excavation, mining companies would organize specialized operation ships to try and clear this outermost turbulent layer by all means. They didn't expect to completely sever this turbulent layer. Under celestial motion, that would come at too great a cost. But, slimming down, this turbulent layer was necessary. After clearing, the outermost turbulence of the asteroid belt would become much sparser, so much so that for a period, there would often be short periods of clear space. This was what the miners referred to as the clear window. With the help of the clear window, Wang Dong and other miners near space mining ships could safely enter the asteroid belt mining area for operations. The observation and forecasting of the clear window was also one of the main purposes of the advancing base's existence. Time passed quickly. The advancing base's observation was, once again, accurate. The window period arrived precisely on time. Without needing a command, the moment the window period appeared, both Wang Dong's mining machine 2 and Lao Shi's close airspace overlord generation I started their engines. Maneuvering their spacecraft with skilled flight postures, they resolutely crossed the turbulent layer and entered the mining district. Inside the mining machine II's cockpit, magnetic restraint belts firmly secured Wang Dong to the seat in front of the control panel. Before entering the mining district, Wang Dong had already shut down the spacecraft's artificial gravity generation system, allocating all the saved power to the 8 lateral attitude adjustment engines on the sides of the mining machine II's hull. He gripped the 8-directional joystick in front of him, pushing the engine power to 1/3. Wang Dong felt a genuine sense of pleasure. The feeling of personally piloting was always so fulfilling. The only regret was that the vehicle beneath him was not the battleship from his previous life, but merely a mining machine 2 close airspace mining spacecraft. A close airspace mining spacecraft was only slightly better than a space shuttle. Compared to deep space mining spacecraft, which possessed formal-grade armor and could even contend with ordinary armed spacecraft, close airspace mining spacecraft were truly the weakest of the weak. Compared to the battle axe destroyer Wang Dong piloted in his previous life, the mining machine II's thrust, acceleration performance, and even maneuverability and directional flight attitude control were all truly unremarkable. But it also had its advantages. The mining machine 2, which didn't need to consider combat-related factors like battleship protection, was equipped with 8 attitude adjustment engines across its hull, double the 4 typically found on ordinary battleships. Even among close airspace mining spacecraft, which placed a greater emphasis on flight attitude adjustment, the mining machine II's advantage in this regard was quite prominent. For instance, Lao Shi's close airspace overlord generation I only had 6 attitude adjustment engines. And as he spent more time piloting the mining machine 2, Wang Dong quickly recalled various memories of this type of mining spacecraft from his past. With ease, the mining machine 2 visibly outpaced Lao Shi's close airspace overlord generation I, taking the lead in their competition. Wang Dong fully utilized the advantages provided by the 8 attitude adjustment engines. In the complex airspace conditions of the asteroid belt, Wang Dong's mining machine 2, relying on its 8 attitude adjustment engines, flexibly adjusted its subtle turns within confined spaces. Without reducing the main engine thrust and maintaining a higher speed, he soared through the asteroid belt mining area. Lao Shi gritted his teeth, following closely behind Wang Dong. When it came to piloting skills, Lao Shi, with nearly 20 years of experience, was considered quite good among interstellar miners. Normally, in his competitions with Wang Dong, although he usually lost, the difference was always negligible. There was no qualitative difference. But this time was a little different. The mining machine 2 in front, piloted by Wang Dong, seemed more agile than usual. Some subtle controls, seemingly insignificant at first glance, were just a touch smoother. But when 10 or 100 such details accumulated, the gap emerged. Originally, in this fringe area of the mining district, Lao Shi's skill level should have allowed him to stick to Wang Dong like glue. However, in reality, less than 10 minutes after entering the mining district, Wang Dong's mining machine 2 had established an absolute leading advantage, leaving Lao Shi struggling to catch up. And this was still far from Wang Dong's limit. He still had time to spare, sorting through the memories in his mind. How did I handle it last time? I think I was so annoyed that I just got ruthless and pulled the rug out from under him. Wang Dong frowned and thought for a moment, recalling his specific, audacious maneuver from before his rebirth. The number 3 attitude adjustment engine on the lower side of the hull of Lao Shi's close airspace overlord generation I, which he chose today, had not been properly maintained. The scanning function of the auxiliary system, permanently displayed in Wang Dong's field of vision, had already detected this. This component was displayed in yellow on the scan interface, not the green that indicated perfect performance. It indicated poor condition. Then, upon entering the mining district, Wang Dong took the lead and firmly controlled the pace, making multiple sudden directional changes in his flight path. Throughout the process, he intentionally provoked the latent problem with that attitude adjustment engine on Lao Shi's close airspace overlord Generation I. After a mere half an hour, the overloaded operation caused the already poorly conditioned attitude adjustment engine to overload and its performance to fail. Under normal circumstances, the overload and failure of just one attitude adjustment engine would not lead to overly severe consequences. The remaining 5 attitude adjustment engines could compensate for it. At most, the adjustment of flight posture would become a bit sluggish. But where was this happening? The asteroid belt mining area. Moreover, under Wang Dong's lead, they had already penetrated to a certain depth. The extremely complex and volatile airspace conditions, even with perfect performance, required caution and full concentration. There was no room for such a sudden malfunction. The moment Lao Shi's close airspace overlord Generation I lost control of its flight posture due to the overload and failure of that attitude adjustment engine, it collided sideways with an asteroid it should have merely brushed past. The collision was not severe, just a glancing blow that damaged a few armor plates. But the subsequent chain reaction was not so easy. The first collision was merely a trigger. It directly caused the close airspace overlord Generation I to completely lose its stable flight posture. In normal cosmic space, one could slowly readjust their flight posture. But in the asteroid belt mining area, this was a fatal error. After losing its flight posture, Lao Shi's close airspace overlord Generation I was instantly caught in a current of turbulence. In the complex gravitational environment, it continuously collided with surrounding small celestial bodies, eventually crashing directly into an asteroid over 1,000 meters in diameter. The experienced Lao Shi himself immediately initiated the escape pod's separation procedure after the impact, luckily avoiding the fate of the close airspace overlord Generation I. Wang Dong originally had a chance to offer a helping hand. And he did indeed act. Although he was annoyed by Lao Shi, it wasn't to the extent of leaving him to die. One accident was enough to give Lao Shi a hard time, and it also allowed Wang Dong to vent his anger. Unfortunately, Lao Shi's escape pod didn't maintain its good luck until the very end. More than one space meteorite, in the chaos caused by the close airspace overlord Generation I, was flung out of the turbulence at high speed, directly colliding with Lao Shi's escape pod. The pod was destroyed on impact, and the person inside died instantly. Wang Dong could only let Lao Shi's escape pod wreckage become lost in the asteroid belt. That was an interstellar miner's funeral. Originally, it was a rather perfect, clever setup to solve a problem. Wang Dong wasn't the cause of Lao Shi's death. Both the black box on Wang Dong's ship and the black box on Lao Shi's ship could prove this point. Unfortunately, things don't always go as planned. Lao Shi's accidental death led to his family searching for answers. Wang Dong only found out afterward that Lao Shi, unbeknownst to him, was actually a distant relative of the mine owner. Normally, it wouldn't matter, but with someone dying in the mining district, a distant relative is still a relative, and an explanation was due. Thus, Wang Dong became a target. They demanded a huge amount in compensation, which Wang Dong naturally refused. Lao Shi's sons, leveraging the mine owner's influence, caused Wang Dong a lot of petty trouble and persistently harassed him. This later brought Wang Dong a great deal of difficulty. There were already some anomalies, which initially seemed within a reasonable range. But once they were noticed and magnified, they inevitably attracted extra attention. And the unsuspecting Wang Dong, when dealing with certain matters later, found that his supposedly cautious actions no longer had any confidentiality. This time, Wang Dong certainly wouldn't be as impulsive and crude as he was before his rebirth. That method might be more satisfying. But its controllability was very poor. If the perpetrator cannot control the extent of the situation's development, then it is a failed perpetration. Having gone through many hardships in his previous life, Wang Dong, now facing this persistent nuisance from Lao Shi, merely rolled his eyes and came up with 3 or 4 solutions. For the long term, such a scoundrel would be cleanest dead. Not to mention his few scoundrel sons, even the mine owner himself, Wang Dong had ways to deal with him. But not now. If his butterfly hadn't yet flapped its wings, or rather, if the amplitude of its wing flapping wasn't yet large enough. Then, in just 10 more days, Wang Dong would reach a turning point in his destiny. Of course, there were also huge risks that came with the opportunity. At such a critical moment, any unnecessary trouble must be avoided as much as possible. It's not just that Wang Dong suffered losses in this matter in his previous life. Even if there were no subsequent troubles after dealing with Lao Shi, the current Wang Dong, with the cautious habits he developed during years of fugitive life, would not do such a thing. He chose the most direct and straightforward method to temporarily deal with this sticky problem of Lao Shi. It was the genuinely superior spaceship piloting skills that Wang Dong had previously demonstrated, which were a cut above Lao Shi's. Just like in a car race, if you leave the other party so far behind that he can't even see your taillights, what face does he have to continue bothering you? The current Lao Shi had this feeling of dejection and powerlessness. The gap was simply too wide. After merely 10 odd minutes of pursuit, Wang Dong's mining machine 2 had completely vanished from his sight. Although his spaceship's short-range detector could still show the glowing dot of the mining machine 2. But what was the point? It was only a matter of time before the mining machine 2 moved out of the detector's range. Looking at Wang Dong's flight path, it was a straight line plunging deep into the mining district. The complexity of the airspace conditions, with the detector screen almost full of flashing red dots, instantly enlightened Lao Shi about his own limitations. If he couldn't even see the engine exhaust from the spaceship's tail, how could he talk about catching up? Even with a fixed flight path given to him, he wouldn't dare enter the complex airspace conditions, let alone track him. At this moment, Lao Shi understood. He felt he had discovered a crucial point, the kind that doesn't need a blind student to explain. Regardless of whether Wang Dong was toying with him before. Just based on the spaceship operating skills he's currently displaying, Wang Dong's mining range alone could put him several tiers above others. So, what's the problem if Wang Dong's mining hauls are always abundant? Even if there is a problem, he can't catch him. Even if he could catch him, he wouldn't dare follow him deep into the mining district, so how could he discover any secrets? Lao Shi didn't know. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong's skill level was, at most, only slightly higher than his. In terms of rating, he was at the peak of the veteran level, approaching elite class. After his rebirth, with years of combat experience, Wang Dong's spaceship operating skills had easily broken through to the elite level, and he was at the peak of the elite level. He was a whole major rank higher than Lao Shi. What was demonstrated was the complete crushing he just experienced. With a perfectly timed display of skill, Wang Dong successfully, intentionally or unintentionally, misled Lao Shi sufficiently. The reason Wang Dong always had abundant harvests was because his outstanding spaceship piloting skills allowed him to venture deep into the asteroid belt where others dared not mine. The mineral veins there were richer, and the quality of the ore was higher. This kind of misleading was enough to temporarily dispel some of Lao Shi's wild notions. And what Wang Dong needed was precisely this period of temporary relief. Let's not mention Lao Shi giving up the chase. Wang Dong had already put this matter out of his mind. Lao Shi was also an experienced old miner. As long as Wang Dong didn't deliberately entice him into the deep parts of the mining district, he was capable of handling most situations. In the outer areas of the mining district, the airspace conditions weren't as complex, and even if a directional adjustment engine malfunctioned in a certain direction, there was still room for maneuver and adjustment. Moreover, a poor condition doesn't necessarily mean destruction. In his previous life, if Wang Dong hadn't deliberately caused it, the directional adjustment engine on Lao Shi's ship wouldn't have overloaded so easily. Wang Dong still had important business to attend to on this trip. He had to mine. Not bringing back any ore would seem too unusual. The reborn Wang Dong was truly cautious now. But it was important to distinguish priorities. Wang Dong's goal was to try and collect some energy crystals. Energy crystals can also be considered a type of mineral. Its composition is exceptionally pure. It is a certain crystalline element, formed under complex conditions, and has multiple uses. Energy crystals almost never have independent veins, often coexisting within other mineral veins. They come in multiple grades, depending on the energy compression level of the crystal itself. The system on Wang Dong's body, for its permanent functions, only required the consumption of some physical stamina. However, after activation, the use of many functions required the consumption of energy crystals. Before the system was activated in his previous life, he didn't know, but after gaining ownership of the battleship and the system was officially activated, an embarrassing situation occurred. Many functions required the consumption of energy crystals, and without energy crystals, they could not be used immediately. Now that he knew this information in advance, he naturally wouldn't waste time. The asteroid belt mining area in the airspace near KQ-03 contained veins of ore that weren't of high quality, but even for low-level energy crystals, Wang Dong wasn't picky. Moreover, in the early stages, the system had a higher demand for low-level energy crystals. Continuing deeper into the mining district, 30 minutes later, the mining machine too slowly decelerated. That should be deep enough. Wang Dong estimated the penetration depth. Any further in, even with his piloting skills brought back from his rebirth, it would be a bit of a stretch. In fact, if it weren't for energy crystals, Wang Dong wouldn't have ventured so deep into the mining district. For valuable minerals like energy crystals, the chances of finding them were clearly higher in the deeper parts of the asteroid belt mining area compared to the outer regions. The outer regions of the mining district were frequented more often, so even if there were energy crystals, the chances of them already being mined were very high. Switching the detector's mode to mineral prospecting, Wang Dong patiently maneuvered his spaceship to cruise around. He kept the particle stream emitted by the detector's external antenna aimed at the target, and depending on the size and texture of the celestial body being scanned, a survey report would be generated after varying lengths of time. Wang Dong carefully monitored the surrounding airspace while controlling the spaceship to maintain a relatively stable flight posture, ensuring the prospecting particle stream didn't detach from the target celestial body. This was a skilled job. Of course, it was also physically demanding. Not every asteroid or asteroid fragment contained minerals. Furthermore, the value of minerals varied depending on their type. Such a large volume, and results in just 32 seconds, it's most likely trash. As expected, iron ore. 28 seconds, copper ore, trash. Talking to oneself is one of the common habits of interstellar miners. The complex celestial environment in the asteroid belt mining area made long-distance communication very difficult. In such circumstances, talking to oneself became a natural choice to relieve tension or anxiety. Over the next hour or so, Wang Dong meticulously screened every small celestial body in the nearby airspace that might contain minerals. The results were not optimistic. Not only did he not find the energy crystals he hoped for, but he also didn't discover any high-value mineral types. However, Wang Dong wasn't discouraged in the slightest. He was a miner, after all. Even an interstellar miner was still a tough job. Just look at the miner's song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, mining is so hard, all I dig is copper, with a purity of 5. Interstellar miners were pretty much the same. In the interstellar era, common minerals like copper and iron were truly worthless. However, these were often the most abundant minerals. Relying solely on such cheap minerals, even if the cargo hold was filled every trip, he wouldn't earn much profit. Mining also required capital. Spending just an hour or so on screening was nothing. After surveying this area, Wang Dong pushed the 8-directional rudder and began to relocate. His luck had turned. Just by moving to a different area, the results improved significantly. 85 seconds, wow, gas ore. 112 seconds, haha, look what I found, Utai mine. After more than 40 minutes, Wang Dong made a good discovery. Gas ore was solidified gas mineral, quite valuable, thousands of times more expensive than copper or iron ore. And Utai mine was even more unusual. This silver-white metal, after refining, possessed extremely high toughness and hardness, making it an excellent material for warship armor. Its price was 30 times that of gas ore. In Wang Dong's experience, besides energy crystals, Utai mine was one of the most valuable mineral types in this asteroid belt mining area. Although Wang Dong's main goal was energy crystals, he also needed some regular income. This piece of Utai mine came at just the right time. Skillfully adjusting his flight posture, the mining machine too aimed its wide underbelly at the asteroid where the mineral was located. This was a fellow over 300 meters in diameter, not too large, but already approaching the mining machine II's processing limit. The next step was crucial. Wang Dong needed to bring the mining machine 2 within 100 meters to allow the magnetic lasso to capture the asteroid's core. No matter how small an asteroid was, its mass was still immense compared to the mining machine 2. At such close proximity, the gravitational forces between the two were sufficient to affect the mining machine II's flight posture. If he accidentally collided with the asteroid, the trouble would be significant. This was inside the asteroid belt, after all. After a collision, both the mining machine 2 and the asteroid could be affected, altering their trajectories and falling into a gravitational turbulence. Wang Dong was not a novice, and this was not yet the true depths of the asteroid belt. With his skill, he handled it with ease. The 8-directional rudder in his hand constantly micromanaged the 8-directional adjustment engines on the hull, and the mining machine 2 steadily and firmly approached the asteroid. The disturbances to the flight posture caused by gravity were often offset by the micro-operations of the directional adjustment engines almost instantly. Without needing to deliberately calculate, or even look at the data prompts flooding the ship's optical computer, relying on subconscious reactions, Wang Dong perfectly completed the entire approach process. The instincts of an interstellar miner had long been ingrained in his body. After aligning with and approaching the asteroid, the mining machine II's underbelly opened wide. First, 4 large magnetic lassos, after capturing the asteroid, magnetically bound its entirety. This process took 5 minutes. Once completed, Wang Dong slightly relaxed his grip on the 8-directional rudder. The magnetic binding temporarily made the mining machine 2 and the target asteroid a single entity, a prerequisite for the entire mining operation. The subsequent process was much simpler. From the mining machine II's underbelly, multiple large mining drills extended, and following the mineral distribution previously detected by the probe, they began destructive mining of the asteroid before him. There was no need to worry about the asteroid deforming or undergoing abnormal displacement, or fragments scattering randomly during this process. With the assistance of magnetic binding, none of these were issues. The mining drills, made of high-strength alloy, were the most expensive components on the entire mining machine 2. Driven by powerful engines, the mining drills stripped away the asteroid's outer rock like a force of nature, plunging deep into the asteroid's interior at a considerable speed. More than 5 hours later, with the assistance of the ship's optical computer, the mining drills completed their work on the entire asteroid. In the mining machine II's cargo hold, there were over 100 tons of Utai mine ore. Meanwhile, the asteroid before him, with 1/8 of its composition, had become a chaotic aggregate of scattered rocks. Although a considerable volume remained, all the Utai mine it contained had been extracted. Wang Dong leisurely operated the mining machine 2, first retracting the mining drills, then the magnetic lassos. Then he pushed the 8-directional rudder and quickly departed from the asteroid. A few minutes later, the asteroid, having lost its magnetic confinement inertia, scattered a large amount of loose rock fragments into space, while its own orbital trajectory also began to deviate. This triggered a chain reaction in the vicinity. Wang Dong had already left. This was the daily work of an interstellar miner. Brutal and direct, yet not lacking in meticulousness and caution. At this depth, Wang Dong searched for a full 30 hours. His haul was 3 units of low-level energy crystals. As for other ores, besides the 100 tons of Utai mine, Wang Dong did not bother with them again. He needed to save time. The endurance of near-space mining ships is generally not strong. After all, it is near-space mining, and both the safety and logistics support coefficients are quite high. Too high an endurance is unnecessary and would also take up limited space, reduce cargo capacity, and lower cost-effectiveness. Energy crystals are truly a quite rare mineral. Compared to other ores, which often have hundreds of tons in reserves, energy crystals are measured in units. 1 unit of energy crystal, the exact quantity depends on the energy it contains, but it does not exceed 1 kilogram. Such a small piece is truly difficult for ordinary miners to handle. These 3 units of energy crystal were discovered by Wang Dong inside a piece of Aocean ore. He successively used large mining drills, medium mining drills, and small mining drills to strip it away layer by layer, and finally, after it was loaded into the cargo hold, it was manually separated with an alloy hammer. The entire process took over 10 hours. After finishing, Wang Dong let out a long breath and wiped his sweat. His minimum harvest goal was achieved. Long hours of continuous operation left Wang Dong's spirit and physical strength somewhat overloaded. Although the harvest only met the lowest expected standard, Wang Dong still chose to stop. When his condition was not optimal, Wang Dong was extra careful while piloting the ship. It is precisely at such times that one must not lower one's standards due to fatigue. He cautiously exited the mining district, and at the edge, Wang Dong paused briefly, waiting for the next clear window to arrive. The astronomical environment at the edge was much better than in the deeper parts. Wang Dong dared to relax and rest a little. The intervals between clear windows were not long. A few hours later, Wang Dong successfully left the mining district and returned to the advancing base. The person on duty was still Sister Leah. Wang Dong asked around and learned that Lao Shi had already left the mining district, admitting defeat and returning earlier. Without Wang Dong intentionally causing trouble, Lao Shi had avoided the previous death trap, and from what he heard, he seemed to be much more honest. This was a good change, and Wang Dong was satisfied with it. One hidden danger had been eliminated. Wang Dong only needed Lao Shi to be honest for a period of time. Such small troubles could be resolved at any time in the future. Not lingering at the advancing base, Wang Dong quickly embarked on his return journey. After leaving the mining district, the automatic navigation function could be re-enabled. On the way back, Wang Dong encountered a patrol team. There are a total of 4 small teams in the daily patrol teams within the mining area starfield. Each small team consists of 3 warships, 2 reconnaissance frigates and 1 assault ship. The route from KQ-03 to the asteroid belt mining area is one of the patrol team's key focus sections, and its safety is quite assured. Wang Dong calmly watched the 3 warship formation pass by, without a ripple in his eyes. The former Wang Dong, upon seeing these warships, would have been quite excited and full of longing. Not just because of the warships, fierce muzzles and sturdy hulls protected by solid armor. And a man's romance. But also because Wang Dong thought that it was the vehicle for his golden finger to be officially activated. The reborn Wang Dong, however, felt completely indifferent to these warships. Their combat power is merely that of a miscellaneous soldier-level warship. These standardized warships do not meet the system's requirements. They have no room for growth. This is an auxiliary system with principles and taste. Although it has never shown any intelligence. After all, it is just an auxiliary system and is not responsible for major responsibilities such as being cute, padding word count, or driving the plot. He redocked the mining machine 2 at the mining company's docking bay. The intelligent settlement equipment automatically sorts, screens, crushes, and refines the ores in the cargo hold. Wang Dong's final earnings would only be calculated after the entire process was completed. There was no need to wait constantly. The entire process was recorded and could be reviewed at any time. In this regard, the mining company's credibility was quite good. It wasn't a matter of conscience. In terms of profit distribution, the mining company itself took the lion's share. Miners not only had to pay the rental fees for the mining ships but also bore the processing and refining costs of the minerals, and finally, the finished products had to be acquired by the mining company. After the entire process, ordinary miners basically worked for the mining company, earning a bit of hard-earned money for themselves. Only by collecting valuable minerals like Yutai mine would they have a relatively substantial income. Carrying those 3 units of low-level energy crystals, Wang Dong strolled leisurely on the streets of the KQ-03 living area. For low-level energy crystals, the mining company's acquisition price was not low, but Wang Dong's upcoming plan had crucial points that absolutely required these items. Keeping these low-level energy crystals, strictly speaking, was a bit of a violation of the contract agreement signed with the mining company. But it didn't matter. As long as they weren't traded on the market, it wouldn't attract the mining company's attention. Given that the mining company's acquisition price for energy crystals was not lower than the market price, such incidents rarely happened before. Ordinary people had no use for energy crystals at all. The reddish sky and the smell of rust in the air constantly awakened the dormant memories in Wang Dong's mind. Along the H-22 pedestrian belt, 3 intersections, I should have transferred there. That's right, this is the intersection, transfer to the S-19 pedestrian belt. He actually went straight back to his residential area without any mistakes or detours. That was a path he hadn't walked in over 10 years. He gave a self-deprecating smile. It seemed that the peaceful days on KQ-03 had indeed left a deep impression on his life. Thinking about it, whether it was his background being exposed and going to the barren territory, or the subsequent decade plus of his life on the run, none of them were pleasant memories. In comparison, the time spent in the mining area Starfield was indeed the most comfortable period in Wang Dong's life. With the help of the system and his own efforts, he gained widespread recognition and respect in his role as an interstellar miner. Economically, he also had substantial income, constantly completing the process of excavating his first pot of gold. There is no harm without comparison. Therefore, KQ-03, where one couldn't feel the birds singing, flowers blooming, or bright sunshine, became a symbol of peace and beauty. A disgrace to transmigration, truly. Criticism and self-critique completed. After identity verification, Wang Dong stepped into his home. The neat and minimalist home decor, along with the completely masculine style, highlighted Wang Dong's status as a single man. The colonial history of KQ-03 was merely a few hundred years. The permanent population on the planet was only over 10 million, making a living from mining and related industries. The technological level on this planet was not high. Apart from a heavy industrial base in mining and metallurgy, other aspects only met daily living needs. In the interstellar era, the objective distance became the greatest obstacle. Not to mention the vast distances between star systems measured in light years, even within the same star system, the technological levels on each planet could be uneven. This is normal. The popularization of technology also requires resources. In the absence of necessity, who would spend a large amount of resources for no reason to popularize people's livelihood technology? Just like the Industrial Revolution that took place on his home planet, how many resources did it take to build a large number of factories? How many resources to popularize education to provide more qualified citizens? How many resources to build enough roads and lay enough railway tracks? Not to mention, in the Zijing Kingdom where Wang Dong is currently located, under this feudal-like social system, how many noble lords would be so idle as to spend a large amount of resources just to improve the quality of life for their people? This is a kingdom where a privileged class monopolizes extraordinary power and high-end military force, and its rule is firmly established. Public opinion and the like are just for show. The noble masters don't need votes. According to Wang Dong's habit, the 1st, 10th, and 20th of each month were the times for mining operations. 3 times a month, the income was approximately 300,000 Zijing Kingdom currency. It was considered a very high income. Wang Dong belonged to the soul transmigration type, directly transmigrating into an infant and growing up in an orphanage. His original life plan was to save enough money, then travel to a more prosperous starfield to find a way to acquire a warship. Then he would officially activate his golden finger and embark on the pinnacle of his life. After being reborn and returning to his 20-year-old self this time, Wang Dong naturally knew that his original life plan was ultimately nothing more than a fleeting dream. There was no room for it to be realized at all. Life, so-called, is actually the result of countless choices aggregated together. And Wang Dong's subsequent life was one where more than half of his choices were frozen. Before his rebirth, this so-called life had not given Wang Dong many choices at all. Fortunately, the experience and memories brought back by this rebirth finally managed to carve out a breathing space within the tightly bound ropes. Over the next few days, Wang Dong made a thorough plan. His previous free time was relatively short, making it impossible to do a systematic review and plan. Then, he carefully made some preparations, without drawing attention to himself. Time always passes quickly amidst busy schedules. In a blink of an eye, it was June 10th. A day Wang Dong would never forget. Mining company, mining spacecraft docking area. The last revenue share was 822,600 yuan, which has been deposited into your account, no problem, right? While selecting a spacecraft, the scruffy administrator checked the accounts with Wang Dong. Speaking of which, this administrator, nicknamed Zhou Lao San, was also a talent. He held multiple positions, including security, warehousing, and settlement, and he handled them all clearly and systematically. At least for so long, all the accounts he had checked with Wang Dong were clear. Wang Dong nodded, indicating no objection. This sum of money had been transferred to Wang Dong's account 2 days prior, and Wang Dong had roughly reviewed the details. The reason for such high income was due to the Yutai mine. This income made Wang Dong's preparations even more thorough. He still chose a mining machine too with good ship condition. What Wang Dong valued was its maneuverability provided by the 8 directional adjustment engines. Perhaps at a critical moment, relying on high maneuverability could increase his chances of survival by a tiny bit. His heart was turbulent, but he showed no trace of it on his face. Wang Dong, as usual, deftly boarded the spacecraft, ascended, and set the course. Destination. Entrance No. 3. 16 hours later, Wang Dong arrived at his destination. Entrance number 3 was further away than entrance number 2, which Wang Dong had visited last time. This time, Wang Dong was lucky. When he arrived at the advancing base, he happened to encounter a window of opportunity, allowing him to enter directly. Wang Dong took a deep breath. Then slowly and steadily exhaled. From now on, it would all be a test of his acting skills. He went straight into the mining district, and after reaching a suitable depth, he began mining operations. 33 seconds, junk ore, move away. 68 seconds, aluminum ore, specific gravity too low, not cost effective. As usual, Wang Dong muttered to himself, talking to himself based on the detector's conclusions. After a while, after picking and choosing, Wang Dong selected an irregular meteorite containing aurichalcite for mining. He skillfully approached, used magnetic restraint, drilled, and finished perfectly. Wang Dong demonstrated the skills of a seasoned interstellar miner to the fullest. Anyone observing would easily conclude that this was a young and talented interstellar miner. But the string in Wang Dong's heart remained taut. Just as Wang Dong was about to end the mining operation in this area and move to the next for searching, an anomaly occurred. With a strange spatial distortion, a behemoth suddenly appeared above Wang Dong's mining machine too. It was a warship with a hull length exceeding 300 meters and a hull width exceeding 60 meters. At the bow of the ship, along the central axis of the hull, a standard main cannon with a thick, long barrel extended. The hull was covered in dark blue-black armor, and beneath the central armor layer, high-speed rails encircled it. 4 secondary cannon turrets were distributed along the high-speed rails, capable of covering every inch of space around the hull with firepower at any moment. As soon as this warship appeared, 4 yellow tractor beams extended from its belly, firmly binding Wang Dong's mining machine too. Not only that, at the same time, on Wang Dong's mining machine too, both the detector and the communicator lost their normal functions, turning into static screens and a shish after sound. Wang Dong understood that this was because the appearing warship had dispersed Mi particles within a small range, directly blocking detection and communication signals in that area. Mi particles are a unique technology of this human civilization. It has a rest mass close to zero. When it is dispersed on the battlefield, it renders most modern known wireless communication and targeting technologies ineffective within the covered range, except for visible light optical signal communication. Although this area was located within the mining district, it was inherently difficult to detect from a distance and hard to establish communication links with the outside world. It's here. Wang Dong's heart stirred. Just like in his previous life, this warship, while being pursued, had fled and hidden within this asteroid belt mining area. Regarding the sudden change, Wang Dong reacted fully as he should have. Astonishment. Then he quickly calmed down. He adjusted the detector and communicator, and simultaneously put on his spacesuit. The 3 actions were done in one go. After the first 2 were fruitless, he didn't panic, nor did he operate the miniature laser gun on the mining machine to make a futile counterattack. That laser gun couldn't even penetrate the outer shell of a mining vessel, let alone the armor of the warship before him. After his attempts at self-rescue proved ineffective, Wang Dong decisively left the control panel and shut down the mining machine II's propulsion engine, signaling harmlessness. This meant, "I surrender, do as you please." Although it seemed hopeless, it was not a dead end. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been tractor beams for restraint, but rather a direct few shots. Given the mining machine II's flimsy nature, the warship didn't even need to use its standard main cannon, Just those 4 secondary cannons, with a few casual blasts, would turn Wang Dong and the mining machine 2 into cosmic dust, to sleep eternally within the asteroid belt mining area. So, the expression on Wang Dong's face was no longer calm, but rather 3 parts confusion, 3 parts worry, and 4 parts excitement. But he was not despairing. His confusion was about the warship's motive. His worry was about the unpredictable fortune or misfortune he would encounter next. As for the excitement, it was the opportunity to come into contact with such a mysterious warship, clearly different from the patrol fleets he saw daily, and displaying extraordinary capabilities. Of course, the ever-present but silent auxiliary system had already provided information about this mysterious warship. E-class Fire Seed Destroyer. Status: 88%. Growth potential: low. This situation continued for a while. The next moment, at the warship's belly, the armor stacked to both sides, and the hatch opened wide. Last time, in his trepidation, Wang Dong felt as if a long time had passed. But this time, with only a slight ripple in his heart, Wang Dong carefully timed it. 89 seconds, not even a minute and a half. It seems he is much more anxious than I imagined. And rightly so, after all, his physical condition no longer allows for much delay. Under the effect of the tractor beams, Wang Dong's entire mining machine 2 was drawn into the belly of this warship. Wang Dong's heart slightly relaxed. So far, everything was going smoothly. After the hatch closed again, 2 armed robots appeared outside the mining machine II's hull. Slightly taller than average, with gleaming silver skeletons, equipped with various ship internal weapons, commonly used for ship security. Wang Dong could even name the model of these 2 armed robots. Guard 3 armed robot, released 40 years ago, priced at 6.5 million per unit. Its advantages were a complete combat AI and adaptability to various uses. Its disadvantage was exposed skeleton, lacking outer armor protection, making it vulnerable to high-power personal weapons. But now was clearly not the time to show off his extensive knowledge. Wang Dong obediently opened the mining machine II's hatch, disembarked, and accepted the left and right surveillance of the 2 armed robots. At this moment, these 2 armed robots were holding ship internal burst cannons, primarily used for internal suppression, targeting unarmored and lightly armored targets. There was no time to carefully observe the specific situation inside the large cargo hold. As the green arrow indicator on the ground lit up, the 2 armed robots, flanking Wang Dong, stepped onto a circular platform about 1.5 meters in diameter. At the edge of the platform, pale red magnetic restraints generated, firmly fixing Wang Dong and the 2 armed robots to the platform. The platform levitated and moved rapidly along the ship's internal passage at a considerable speed. After crossing 3 passages and 4 compartments, Wang Dong arrived at a circular armored isolation door. Command module, also known as the bridge. Wang Dong murmured in his mind. 5 seconds later, the hatch opened. Wang Dong stepped in without hesitation, and the hatch closed behind him. Although he had anticipated it, the scene inside the command module still made Wang Dong pause for a moment. Even though it was only one meeting, that single encounter was deeply etched into Wang Dong's mind. A middle-aged man in a black combat suit was reclining in the commander's chair. A silver-white, wheel-shaped, small intelligent medical machine floated in midair, providing him with life support. Both the green indicator light, symbolizing normal operation, and the red indicator light, indicating an emergency, were flashing continuously. Hearing footsteps, the man remained motionless. Only a slightly weak voice rang out. "I apologize, my current condition makes it difficult to move. Please come a little closer." Wang Dong walked to the commander's chair as instructed. The middle-aged man's left eye was a complete bloody mess, and there was a long gash above his right eye, faintly revealing white bone. His eye was squinted into a small slit and couldn't open. Even more serious was the man's left chest. A black dagger was plunged in up to its hilt, and several surgical arms of the intelligent medical machine were focused on this wound. To be alive and conscious now is nothing short of a miracle. Wang Dong could tell at a glance that even if the dagger in the man's chest hadn't directly pierced the center of his heart, it had certainly destroyed at least half of his heart tissue. "While I'm not sure of your purpose in inviting me in this manner, I suggest you get straight to the point, sir." Wang Dong bowed slightly, his tone carrying 3 parts of indignation. The man curled his lips, revealing a grim smile. It's a military stimulant from the Leviathan civilization. After injection, one can remain conscious for an hour unless their head is severed. If you can immediately find a reliable hospital to lie down in, there might still be hope. Wang Dong turned his head, scanning the situation inside the command cabin. Inside the entire command cabin, besides this severely injured man, there was no one else. Oh, and there were 2 armed robots. Don't bother looking. There's no one else on board besides me. Also, the Jin family's heart-piercing dagger is not something a hospital in a small place like this can alleviate. The middle-aged man's head moved slightly as he said softly. If you need someone to witness your death, then I think you can begin. Wang Dong turned his head, staring at the middle-aged man, and said seriously. I just hope that once your objective is achieved, you can let me leave. I am just an ordinary interstellar miner. Although I don't need to support a family, I also have my own ideals and goals. You are an interesting young man. Unfortunately, it's useless. You are highly unlikely to return to your old life. There's a fellow nearby from the Jin family of the Dingyuan star system. I killed 3 collateral descendants of their family and was placed on the Jin family's kill list. Once they discover you've been on this warship, you'll also be considered an accomplice and killed without question. The Jin family of the Dingyuan star system, the Jin family known for their vindictiveness. Wang Dong asked, somewhat uncertainly. You kid, you do have some knowledge. That's right, it's the Dingyuan Jin, who claim, touch a blade of my grass, and I'll wipe out your entire household. The middle-aged man's voice, when mentioning the words, Dingyuan Jin, was filled with intense hatred. Wang Dong had indeed heard of the Jin family of the Dingyuan star system. Although the mining area starfield where Wang Dong was located belonged to the Zijing Kingdom, the Dingyuan star system where the Jin family resided belonged to the Goldfinch Federation. They were neighboring countries. The political structures of the 2 countries differed, but in essence, there wasn't much difference. The privileged class within the Zijing Kingdom was referred to by titles such as Baron and Viscount. The privileged class within the Goldfinch Federation, on the other hand, was often given the name, family, also divided into several ranks. And the Jin family was a high-ranking family within the Goldfinch Federation. Their fame, or rather infamy, had indeed spread throughout the neighboring nations. There was once a case. A collateral descendant of the Jin family was caught in the act of drugging a student from a women's academy. The student's companions, knowing the perpetrator was a collateral descendant of the Jin family, dared not offend him. They said nothing, simply taking the student away. Unexpectedly, this collateral descendant of the Jin family felt he had lost face. That very night, he gathered a group of cronies, forced their way into the women's academy dormitory building, and abducted all 4 female students from that dormitory. These 4 female students were never heard from again. The Women's Academy immediately reported the matter to the Federal Ministry of Education. The news spread widely throughout the education community, sparking anger among countless students and educators. The incident caused a huge uproar, even alarming the Halak Federal Council. The offending collateral descendant of the Jin family was severely punished. But afterward, the principal and 3 vice principals of that women's academy were successively arrested and imprisoned for various reasons. The family members within 3 generations of the victimized female students, far away in other star systems, also suffered various misfortunes. Some were paralyzed, some were disabled, and even a little niece who had just turned 1 year old was tragically disfigured. The entire process was completely undisguised. Under public pressure, the perpetrators, who were mercenaries, were quickly arrested. Everyone knew who the mastermind was, but without evidence, they could do nothing against this high-ranking family. Such was their terror. Even though Wang Dong grew up in the remote mining area Starfield, he had heard news about the Jin family of the Goldfinch Federation. I understand. It seems I have no other choice. Wang Dong's pupils constricted slightly, and he nodded. Then, Mister, may I ask what your purpose is? The middle-aged man sat up with difficulty. I was directly hit in the heart by the Jin family's soul-reaping dagger. If not for my body, which is close to advanced body tempering, I would have died before I even had time to inject a stimulant. It's good that you understand the Jin family's habits, it will save us a lot of time. But I suggest you consider the Jin family with more gravity, because they are always a million times more despicable, shameless, vile, disgusting, perverted, and scummy than you can imagine. Wang Dong nodded slightly, feigning a receptive posture. He genuinely agreed. Before his rebirth, he indeed underestimated the Jin family's troublesome nature. Or rather, he tried his best to take it seriously, but his capabilities were limited, and he didn't take it seriously enough. I must say, your performance is quite good. The middle-aged man evaluated Wang Dong. Whether it's your swift and decisive self-rescue when facing an anomaly, your calm response after quickly assessing the situation, or your composure even when facing uncontrollable forces. Young people like you are rare, even among the privileged class. Wang Dong bowed slightly, expressing his gratitude. You flatter me, I still have much to learn. For example, how did your warship suddenly appear beside me? Mr. Yuan twitched his lips, which was meant as a smile. My name is Yuan Shu, and this is my warship, the Battle Axe. She is a fire seed warship. What should I call you, young man? Wang Dong bowed slightly, saluting, and said, Mr. Yuan, it's an honor to meet you, I am Wang Dong. So the Battle Axe is a fire seed warship. Then was her previous performance the function of a certain shipboard module? Yuan Shu was slightly taken aback. Wang Dong, young man, it seems you also have some understanding of fire seed warships, which is very rare. To be able to grasp such information in such a remote, small place indicates that your ambitions are not simple. Wang Dong clasped his hands, sighed lightly, and said, Yes, fire seed warships are the symbol of humanity's highest military power, and also the military reliance that the privileged class uses to maintain its rule. In fact, owning my own fire seed warship has always been my dream. Yuan Shu again twitched his lips. Then congratulations, your dream is about to come true. Wang Dong frowned. Mr. Yuan, I don't quite understand. What do you mean? It's exactly as you guessed, I'm about to die. Right now, there are only 2 of us on this warship. Before I die, I will transfer the captain's authority to you, and you will become the next captain of this battle axe. Wang Dong said with a wry smile. Mr. Yuan, may I refuse? Apparently not. Yuan Shu moved his arm, seemingly puzzled by Wang Dong's refusal. But I don't mind hearing your reason for refusing, it's genuinely perplexing. I don't want to leave with doubts before I die. Owning my own fire seed warship has been my dream ever since I learned of their existence. Wang Dong shook his head, continuing his wry smile. I have my own plans. I'll work as an interstellar miner to save money, then leave this country and go to the Federation. The advanced academies there offer the most civilian-friendly paths for advancement. As long as I can graduate successfully and achieve excellent grades, I can obtain a fire seed warship funded by the academy. Although it's very difficult, I have confidence in myself, I still have at least a 30% chance. Now, a fire seed warship seems within reach, which could save me at least 20 years of struggle. Of course, I'm tempted. And I'm especially tempted. But it's too early, and too sudden. I'm completely unprepared, whether psychologically, in terms of ability, or even in terms of background and influence. Mr. Yuan, do you understand? Yuan Shu fell silent. At first glance, with Yuan Shu's death, Wang Dong would acquire the battle axe, become the new captain, and instantly rise to prominence, greatly elevating his status. But could it really be so smooth? Firstly, Yuan Shu, who clearly had a grudge with the Jin family, was certainly going to die. Wang Dong knew it, Yuan Shu himself knew it, and the Jin family, who orchestrated it, naturally also knew it. But if Wang Dong inherited the battle axe from Yuan Shu, would the Jin family let Wang Dong go? Clearly impossible. Vengeful, Ding Yuan Jin family, care to know more. Just as Yuan Shu had said earlier, the Jin family had already targeted Yuan Shu and the battle axe. Once Wang Dong boarded the warship and was discovered by the Jin family, he would be included in their purge. Let alone becoming the new captain of the battle axe. In fact, any faction, upon learning that a commoner like Wang Dong possessed a fire seed warship, would unhesitatingly move against Wang Dong, trying every means to seize the battle axe for themselves. This brings us to the second factor Wang Dong just mentioned. Background, or rather, influence. To occupy a resource of the level of a fire seed warship, one naturally needs to possess certain qualifications. These qualifications could be ability, recognized elite talents in certain fields, outstanding warship commanders, etc. They could be background, privileged individuals like scions of aristocratic families or public officials above a certain rank, etc. They could also be influence, large conglomerates, local powers, etc. They could even be profligate sons inheriting their predecessors' legacies. But for an interstellar miner like Wang Dong, he clearly wasn't qualified. Far from it. Wang Dong, having been reborn, naturally knew that if he inherited Yuan Shu's battle axe, all the aforementioned problems could be resolved. Because the battle axe had several shipboard modules whose functions were truly exceptional. But he couldn't show it. Just because Yuan Shu was being so amiable to him now, he shouldn't assume he was one of those lucky encounter grandpas from novels. To persist in causing trouble for the Jin family under their relentless pursuit for decades, was that something an ordinary person could do. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong, with his golden finger, had only managed to survive for over 10 years under the Jin family's pursuit. So now, Wang Dong was truly wholeheartedly immersed in playing the role of a promising young man. Every word and action had to conform to his persona, otherwise, if Yuan Shu saw anything amiss. Wang Dong knew clearly that the military stimulants of the Levistan civilization lasted for 24 hours, not just a mere 1 hour. Yuan Shu wasn't completely without other options. If Wang Dong wasn't suitable, there were plenty of other candidates in the mining district. Yuan Shu had been adventuring in the stars for decades, he wasn't a naive noble scion. After a little thought, he somewhat understood the reason for Wang Dong's refusal. It was my oversight. I forgot that young brother Wang Dong and people like us didn't actually come from the same world before, Yuan Shu said with some emotion. I took charge of the battle axe when I was 30 and have been adventuring in the stars for over 70 years, I've long forgotten what life is like for planetary residents. Planetary residence was a term for ordinary people who lived their entire lives on a planet and couldn't freely venture into space. It was a neutral term, neither complimentary nor derogatory. A very apt description. Just like a frog in a well. Young brother Wang Dong, I'll presume to call myself an elder brother. After all, I'm older and have seen more people and things. I understand you have your own ideas and know more than most people, but perhaps your exposure is still insufficient. Yuan Shu struggled to unfasten the seatbelt that held him in place and slowly sat upright. I've been feuding with the Jin family for so many years, yet I'm still free and unfettered. The bounty on me from the Jin family has risen again and again, but they've never been able to catch me. It wasn't until this time, when the Jin family found the family of an important crew member, threatened and bribed him into defecting, and set a trap, that they finally succeeded. The reason the Jin family couldn't track me for decades certainly wasn't luck. Nor was it due to the battle axe's combat power. It was the foundation of my Yuan family, coveted by the Jin family, the additional shipboard modules with special functions obtained by my ancestors during their adventures in the stars. Additional shipboard modules? Wang Dong asked with some surprise. Aren't the modules carried on fire seed warships called shipboard modules? What does additional shipboard modules mean? It seems you don't know enough about fire seed warships. Shipboard modules are divided into two types, standard modules and additional modules, these are common knowledge. The Battle Axis shipboard AI has files on this, which you can check yourself later, Yuan Shu said with a light chuckle. Wang Dong feigned sudden understanding, but still shook his head and said, Mr. Yuan, now that you've explained, I have some understanding, but there's still a crucial prerequisite that I'm completely unsure about. What prerequisite? Yuan Shu asked curiously. As far as I know, to become the captain of a fire seed warship, one must merge with the shipboard fire seed within the ship, and the success rate of this merge is very low. Unless one can cultivate the forging technique to an advanced level, it's not guaranteed to succeed 100% of the time. Wang Dong said with some shame, I'm not part of the privileged class, I don't have the qualifications to cultivate the forging technique, so I might not even be able to merge with the shipboard fire seed. However, Yuan Shu shook his head slightly, the success rate you mentioned applies to first-generation fire seed warships. Transferring captain authority doesn't require considering the success rate of fire seed merging or the level of forging technique cultivation, it is guaranteed to succeed. Wang Dong nodded, looking a bit bewildered. This was a question he had to ask. Again, his persona was very important. He needed to display certain excellent qualities, such as calmness, composure, and meticulous thinking, to make Yuan Shu believe that Wang Dong had the ability to cause trouble for the Jin family later on, thus avoiding the hidden danger of misplaced trust. He also had to be careful not to appear too outlandish, for example, by knowing far more information than would normally be accessible, or by not caring about anything as long as he could take over the captain's position. You can research the specific information later. Trust me, it will definitely be a surprise. Yuan Shu's speech began to quicken, with a hint of impatience. Alright, then I'll listen to you, Mr. Yuan. Of course, if you have any other instructions, please also relay them, Wang Dong said, knowing when to stop, nodding somewhat reluctantly. Yuan Shu would, of course, have other additional conditions. He had gone to such lengths, explaining so much, was it merely to hand over the warship to Wang Dong before he died? Naive. Very well, then let's be pragmatic first, then principled. Yuan Shu's voice softened slightly. Immediately, as if receiving a command, the wheel-shaped intelligent medical machine that had been hovering above Yuan Shu slowly moved in front of Wang Dong. Then, a dark green syringe extended from one of its mechanical arms. Wang Dong remained still, allowing the injection to be administered into his body. This is a secret medicine from the Yuan family, its effects need no elaboration. It will take effect 1 year from now, Yuan Shu said faintly. The secret box containing the antidote is on the table in the captain's quarters. I have already set the unsealing conditions, you only need to kill any direct descendant of the Jin family, which will be verified by the ship's optical computer. I will use the captain's authorization to solidify these unsealing conditions, and the next captain will not have the authority to change them. Such secret medicines, named after families, are basically one of the trump cards of various families, and it is difficult to find corresponding antidotes on the market. Wang Dong said with some concern on his face, the Dingyuan star system is a long distance from this mining area starfield. Moreover, the Jin family is powerful, and the resources controlled by its direct descendants far exceed those of ordinary people. The fire seed warships they possess are also not ordinary. In a short time, I'm afraid I won't be able to find a suitable target. You don't need to worry about that. Sima Disao, the direct descendant of the Jin family who plotted against me, is still tracking my whereabouts in this starfield and will not leave anytime soon. He is your best target choice. I have already prepared the relevant intelligence about him. After you succeed as captain, you can access it at any time in the database of the ship's optical computer, Yuan Shu said calmly. It was normal for Yuan Shu to threaten Wang Dong with secret medicine. From his perspective, besides such methods, what other way could there be to make Wang Dong inherit his will and fight the Jin family to the end? Yuan Shu was indirectly forcing Wang Dong to shed the blood of a Jin family direct descendant in the short term, completely cutting off his retreat. From ancient times to the present, a pledge of allegiance has always been a good way to bring people into a group. Additionally, Yuan Shu's action was not without the motive of seeking revenge for himself. Sima Disao was the direct cause of Yuan Shu's death, to say he didn't hate him would be a lie. As for whether it was reasonable, or whether Wang Dong might die due to this coercion, Yuan Shu didn't care. Yuan Shu himself was about to die, so he couldn't bother with so much. Wang Dong was not a junior in his family, with some familial affection. Ultimately, Wang Dong was just Yuan Shu's last bit of struggle and effort before his death. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong had resented this. But in this life, he felt neither sorrow nor joy. After experiencing more, he would know that to gain, one must always pay a price. To obtain a fire seed warship and the best capital for class ascension, Wang Dong felt that paying those costs was worthwhile. Although Wang Dong had just been full of confidence in front of Yuan Shu, claiming to have a 30% chance of acquiring a fire seed warship on his own and achieving class ascension, it was all nonsense. In real society, it's not that simple. Leaving aside everything else, just how to cross distances measured in light years, leave the Zijing Kingdom, and go to the Goldfinch Federation, was a highly uncertain factor. More importantly, several ship-borne modules on the battle axe were truly rare and excellent items. It was no wonder they were coveted by the Jin family, leading to the ruin of the Yuan family and Yuan Shu's desperate resistance. Wang Dong was also very tempted. Before his rebirth, if it weren't for these ship-borne modules, how could Wang Dong, as a novice captain, have repeatedly avoided the Jin family's pursuit and lingered for more than 10 years? This condition is not excessive. I accept it, Wang Dong replied solemnly. It was a promise from the heart. With Yuan Shu's many years of experience in judging people, plus the keen senses provided by the intermediate body tempering technique, he could tell at a glance. Very good, fate has not completely cut off my hope after all. Before my death, it allowed me to find a suitable owner for the battle axe. The weak and dying Yuan Shu struggled to prop himself up. Waving away Wang Dong's support, Yuan Shu said loudly and formally, "Battle axe, as captain, I officially issue an order. The order is as follows. Transfer captain's authorization to the human citizen Wang Dong standing before me." Beep. 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 Highest level authorization command change, initiating authorization verification. Publisher identity confirmed. Captain Yuan Shu. Publishing environment confirmed. No abnormalities. Target confirmed. Human citizen Wang Dong. Verification complete. Captain Yuan Shu, please confirm the command. Unlike Wang Dong's mining machine 2, which was a low-spec model, the electronic voice from the battle axe's shipborne optical computer was soft and pleasant. Command confirmed. Yuan Shu said, enunciating each word, his voice filled with extremely complex emotions: reluctance, relief, hope, and even resentment. Command confirmed. Captain Wang Dong, congratulations on becoming the third captain of this vessel. The battle axe reports to you. May your martial fortune be prosperous. The authorization verification procedure was cautious and rigorous. The command for the entire process not only required reconfirmation but also involved an examination of the command's environment to rule out abnormal factors such as the captain being hypnotized or coerced before it could be approved. With the completion of the full verification process, Wang Dong officially became the new owner of the Fire Seed warship battle axe. His mood was somewhat complex. This was the turning point of his destiny. He had stepped onto the ladder to escape the mire of the lower class. But this was just a starting point. Last time, he had stumbled right after starting. After being reborn, he wanted to see who would ultimately emerge victorious. Captain authorization transfer complete. Wang Dong also immediately gained command over the two armed mechs behind him. However, Wang Dong did not take any action against Yuan Shu, instead maintaining his respect for him. Mr. Yuan, do you have any further instructions? Just kidding. What is the concept of intermediate body tempering technique? Even with the completion of the primary forging technique, one is already close to the limits of the human body. After breaking through to intermediate body tempering technique, one can be considered an extraordinary existence in some sense. Even if Yuan Shu was severely injured, crushing an ordinary person like Wang Dong, who hadn't practiced forging technique, would be no more trouble than crushing an ant. A mere two armed mechs could not give Wang Dong any sense of security. One last small request. Time is running out. I hope to spend my remaining time on the battle axe undisturbed, so that my soul can be eternally integrated with the battle axe. Yuan Shu nodded in satisfaction. Please rest assured, I will certainly do so. However, from what you've said, the battle axe is currently still being pursued. I hope to review the information you left behind to quickly find a solution. Wang Dong continued to speak respectfully, a hint of solemnity in his heart. Last time, Wang Dong didn't dare to make such a request. Instead, he passively waited for Yuan Shu to pass away before attempting to control the battle axe. As a result, during this period, when the Jin family warships were searching nearby, they discovered an anomaly in this starfield, and subsequently found the location of the battle axe. The additional module on the battle axe with stealth capabilities was in its cooldown period and could not be activated immediately. Finally, Wang Dong relied on his advantage of familiar terrain to play hide-and-seek with the Jin family's search warships, barely managing to delay until the cooldown period of that additional module ended, reactivating the stealth function to temporarily escape. But because of this, during the delay, the battle axe suffered heavy damage from the Jin family warship, completely losing its initiative, laying a hidden danger for the forced radical adventurous actions in the future. To avoid wasting this precious time again, Wang Dong made a different choice at this moment than he had before. Very well, you are already the captain, this is your right. It seems your ability to accept and adapt is indeed very strong. After a slight pause, Yuan Shu spoke with some relief. Wang Dong let out a long breath in his heart. It's done. I've firmly grasped the first note of destiny. In reality, it came to an end. At this moment, in Wang Dong's mind, after obtaining the captain's authorization, he felt significantly different from before. Acquiring carrier. Self-checking. Self-check complete. Carrier qualified. System function activated successfully. This was Wang Dong's golden finger, the prompt message that the ship game auxiliary system in his mind had officially activated. Lines of mysterious characters flowed down the system interface in his mind. Permanent function 2. High-speed human-computer data interaction, activated. The next moment, Wang Dong could feel a warm flame inside the battle axe establishing a mysterious connection with him. That was the shipboard fire seed. Through this connection, he could clearly feel the situation of the entire warship. Similar to using the system's scanning function to observe a warship in detail, at this very moment, the overall ship hull structure of the battle axe, and the status of each module, were all presented in Wang Dong's mind. It was as if the warship had become an extension of Wang Dong's spirit, and a large amount of information could be obtained with a mere thought. Query basic data of this ship. Beep. This ship is the Fire Seed Destroyer Battle Axe. Performance parameters are as follows. Standard main cannon LV.2, armor LV.2, engine LV.2, Sky Patrol Radar LV.1, ship hull structure LV.0, energy shield LV.2, overall evaluation is Fire Seed Destroyer LV.6, remaining source points, 12, source points acquisition rate, 25%. Additional modules are as follows. Flying Mare Warp Device LV.0, Quantum Entanglement Brainwave Control System LV.0, Mirage System LV.0. Armor damage, 38%, ship hull damage, 4%, schematic diagram as follows. Standard main cannon ammunition remaining, 123 rounds, secondary cannon ammunition remaining, 2012, energy remaining, 2,298, living supplies remaining, 393 units. A string of data, whether communicated by voice or displayed to Wang Dong in the form of written data, would take at least a dozen seconds. However, at this moment, after the ship game auxiliary system in Wang Dong's mind was officially activated, the human-computer exchange of data information was completed in just an instant. It was as if the human brain had also become a computer, capable of processing a large amount of data in a short time. As a result, the improvement in control efficiency was simply worlds apart. Indeed, a captain with or without an auxiliary system is essentially two different kinds of beings. In his previous life, after this ship auxiliary system was activated, Wang Dong marveled at it for a long time. Of course, this control method also has its drawbacks. Just like the system's previous, permanent function 1, using it consumes Wang Dong's energy. This control method naturally isn't without cost. Wang Dong himself has to bear it. This high-speed human-computer data interaction method also consumes energy. Maintaining it for a long time is not realistic for Wang Dong at present. It's fine to use during combat, but for everyday situations, the normal mode is more suitable. In addition to the scanning and high-speed human-computer data interaction, permanent functions, after the warship game auxiliary system was activated, the previously unusable, optional functions, no longer had gray text. Furthermore, behind each function, corresponding usage conditions appeared. Optional function 1. Alien space signal capture consumes 1 low-level energy crystal each time. Optional function 2. Module growth value doubled. Different module qualities consume different energy crystals. Optional function 3. Module trait selection. Different module qualities consume different energy crystals. These 3 optional functions are all exceptionally effective. However, each use of these functions requires the consumption of energy crystals. The remaining, advanced functions, also showed changes. Advanced function 1. Double source points acquisition, activated by 1 unit of advanced energy crystal. Advanced Function 2. Alien Space Civilization Level Restriction lifted, activated by 1 unit of Advanced Energy Crystal. Unlike permanent functions, which have no conditions, and optional functions, which consume energy crystals with each use. Advanced functions require the consumption of advanced energy crystals as an activation condition. Advanced energy crystals are rare and expensive. Fortunately, there is no immediate need for advanced functions yet. Query basic data for this vessel. Yuan Shu was still there, so to prevent him from noticing any abnormalities caused by the warship auxiliary system, Wang Dong switched to voice mode to issue commands. The onboard optical computer does not possess true intelligence and showed no abnormality regarding the new captain's repeated commands. As the command was issued, corresponding data immediately appeared on the main screen of the command bridge, and a soft electronic voice simultaneously broadcasted at an appropriate speed. The displayed content was identical to what Wang Dong had received before. Armor damage, 38%. After a brief thought, Wang Dong raised his hand to point and opened the detailed information on the armor damage. The data was very clear. The damage to the battle axe's hull armor was mainly concentrated at the stern, especially near the engine nozzles at the stern, where several areas showed severe damage to the armor. The displayed color was a dazzling red. Apart from these areas, most other parts were basically green. It was clear that the damage was sustained during the pursuit. As for hull damage, that was not a major issue. 4% was far from the critical point and did not affect the warship's general operations. Initiate silent navigation, slowly transfer to this coordinate. Wang Dong lightly tapped on the Sky Patrol radar imaging map on the left, issuing a transfer command to the battle axe's onboard optical computer. Everything else could wait. A strategic retreat was the top priority. Wang Dong clearly remembered that before his rebirth, he had lingered too long in the original spot, leading to his discovery by the Jin family's search warship. He struggled to delay, until finally being heavily damaged, he managed to buy enough time to narrowly escape. At that time, the battle axe's armor damage reached 85%. The hull damage also reached 56%. It could be said he was severely wounded, losing more than half his life. The reason Wang Dong risked speaking to Yuan Shu was to buy this precious time. The battle axe's onboard optical computer was clearly a cut above the mining machine too. Even in complex celestial environments like the asteroid belt mining area, it could still use the automatic navigation function. Wang Dong didn't need to personally steer. After the destination was specified, the battle axe automatically adjusted its 4 directional thrusters, cooperating with the main engine's subtle output, and the entire warship elegantly and gently avoided larger meteorites and asteroids, slowly sailing into the depths of the mining district. Of course, a large part of this was also due to the thick armor surrounding the battle axe's hull. It could completely ignore low-speed impacts from general small meteorites. Being thick-skinned makes one so willful. There was also the energy shield, which, due to its high energy consumption, was generally not activated during non-combat times. Meanwhile, Wang Dong continued to go through the inventory list, then conveniently circled the miniature disposable probes listed on the list. He deployed more than a dozen of them, carefully placing them on nearby asteroids. Watching Wang Dong's methodical operation, a faint light flickered in Yuan Shu's sole remaining eye. Little brother Wang Dong, have you had any prior experience with warship operation? Wang Dong turned to Yuan Shu, smiling a bit shyly. I'm a loyal fan of the virtual game, Star Sea Conquest, with a cumulative playtime of over 2,400 hours, having fought nearly 1,200 battles with a starter ship, and a win rate exceeding 50%. He calmly reported his achievements, naturally with a hint of self-satisfaction. Star Sea Conquest is a holographic, full Starfield, real-time battlefield strategy game. It boasts a simulation accuracy of 85%. Players assume the role of a warship captain, commanding their battleship to join designated battlefields for single-ship combat or fleet engagements. The publisher is a large tech company from the far end of the Star Sea, rumored to have a profound background. The game's popularity even in remote areas like the mining area Starfield, where KQ-03 is located, is a testament to its reach. Wang Dong previously cherished this rare channel for accessing warship-related information, spending a significant amount of time and effort in the game. To play such a wide-area real-time strategy game, a personal home optical computer isn't enough. One must go to a large internet cafe with specialized login equipment. The fees are quite substantial. Therefore, internet fees occupied a considerable portion of Wang Dong's daily expenses. As a rigorous official game, its in-game achievements can indeed, to a certain extent, reflect a player's familiarity with a standard warship and basic tactics. Yuan Shu nodded in relief, his voice hoarse. Better than nothing, I suppose. I was just thinking that since we're still being pursued, we should try not to stay in one place for too long, no matter what, Wang Dong said with a shrug, a hint of helplessness in his voice. After all, this is probably a forcing a duck onto a perch situation for me, so I have to struggle. Yuan Shu struggled to shift his body slightly. Caution is a good quality, it can help you better evade the Jin family's pursuit. However, I have a question. The Yuan family secret antidote you carry requires killing a direct descendant of the Jin family to obtain the cure. So, why don't you choose to wait here for a Jin family warship to deliver it to you? Wang Dong gave a bitter smile upon hearing this. I wouldn't truly believe that playing a game makes me a real warship captain. To be honest, I don't even dare to personally pilot a warship right now, let alone fight. Familiarizing myself with the ship's condition and practicing basic driving and maneuvering skills from the ground up are the priority options. Furthermore, as the ancients said, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. But right now, I don't even know anything about my opponent. I neither know myself nor my enemy. How can there be any chance of victory in such a hasty battle? Yuan Shu relaxed his body and lay back down. It seems you're very clear-headed. In that case, I have a few more reasons to be optimistic about your future. Wang Dong chuckled. It seems Mr. Yuan, you're consistently pessimistic about my prospects. That's because you don't understand how troublesome the Jin family is, Yuan Shu said, shaking his head. No matter what kind of method, if the Jin family deems it necessary, they can employ it. Like me, even after decades of maneuvering against the Jin family, when my threat rating and bounty in the Jin family's foreign affairs hall rose to a certain level, and more direct descendants of the Jin family, able to mobilize more resources, joined the mission to pursue me, I still fell victim to the very schemes and tricks I despise the most. If I, myself, am like this, how much more so for a young man like you? Just do your best and leave the rest to fate. With that, Yuan Shu sighed deeply, filled with endless bitterness. Wang Dong really wanted to nod in agreement. In his previous life, wasn't he just like Yuan Shu, relentlessly pursued with nowhere to run? But now, he certainly couldn't appear so dejected. If he didn't even have basic confidence, how could he expect others to entrust their last hope to him? Mr. Yuan, I'm thinking, if I can avoid appearing in the Jin family's sight, then even the Jin family should have oversights. For example, the Jin family doesn't know about my existence yet. So, as long as I'm careful not to expose myself to their eyes, who would know that the new captain of the battle axe would be a mere interstellar miner? Wang Dong said with a smile. There's some truth to that. Although it sounds simple, with the battle axe's additional modules, it's not impossible to achieve. It's just that the probability is rather small. Yuan Shu's expression flickered slightly, then he seemed somewhat unconvinced. If it were an old hand who had ventured through the stars for many years and was familiar with the battle axe's specific conditions, perhaps it could be done. But for a rookie like Wang Dong, Yuan Shu remained reserved on the matter. Mr. Yuan, since it's a warship, why does the battle axe only have one standard main cannon? Even with 4 secondary cannons, that's only 5. Isn't the firepower a bit too weak? Wang Dong asked, somewhat puzzled. Are you misunderstanding the term warship, thinking that if it doesn't have dozens of standard main cannons, it has no combat power? Yuan Shu couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. It seems you really are a rookie, just as you said. Wang Dong seemed a little embarrassed, blinking his eyes. He didn't say anything but watched Yuan Shu with curious eyes. Seeing Wang Dong was indeed curious, Yuan Shu explained, generally speaking, for low-level interstellar civilizations, the attack power of a warship is always far greater than its defense power. For example, an electromagnetic cannon of a small caliber can easily tear through an opponent's armor. Even an asteroid with a diameter of over 1 meter can pose a fatal threat to a warship. At this level, the more weapons a warship possesses, the more combat power it naturally has. However, as the civilization level increases, the defensive capabilities of warships gradually cease to be a weakness and instead begin to surpass their offensive capabilities. As for the Fire Seed warship, it initially comes with an energy shield module. When the energy shield is activated, attacks below a certain intensity can, to some extent, achieve a significant degree of immunity. Only attacks exceeding a certain intensity can affect the energy shield and consume its durability. In this situation, no matter how many standard main cannons a warship has, without sufficient attack intensity, they are effectively useless. Thus, attack intensity became an important indicator for standard main cannons. And the higher the attack intensity, the more abundant energy supply is required. A warship's energy supply capacity always has its limits, so fewer but more refined standard main cannons became the standard. As for auxiliary firepower, a few high rate of fire secondary cannons are sufficient. As the ship hull structure module is strengthened and upgraded, the attack intensity of the secondary cannons on the warship will also increase accordingly, not dragging it down. Additionally, and most importantly, the capabilities of the shipboard fire seed are also limited. Standard warships that can integrate a shipboard fire seed can only have one standard main cannon slot, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Wang Dong feigned sudden understanding. By this time, the battle axe had already moved away from the previous location. Wang Dong stared at the Sky Patrol radar imaging map for a while, then reached out and tapped a new coordinate point. Battle axe, proceed to these coordinates under silent navigation. After giving the order, Wang Dong turned to Yuan Shu and explained, the more I thought about it, the more something felt off. The battle axe released MI particles there earlier, and they won't dissipate anytime soon. Within the MI particle range, Sky Patrol radar and other detection equipment, as well as communication signals, are greatly restricted, but the MI particles themselves are also very easy to detect. As long as a Jin family warship gets close, it can easily discover the existence of that MI particle-shrouded area. Although the celestial environment within the asteroid belt mining area can severely affect the accuracy and range of Sky Patrol radar detection. Who knows if the Sky Patrol radar on the enemy's ship is a high-quality model? I think it's better to hide even further away. Yuan Shu chuckled, delighted, your prospects might improve by another 3 points. Wang Dong remained expressionless. Aren't you just laughing at me for being a coward? Am I proud of being a coward? That's called following one's heart. The following one's heart from doing as one pleases, you're uncultured. While there's still some time, I'll give you a brief introduction to some common knowledge about Fire Seed warships. Perhaps finding Wang Dong's audacious move somewhat interesting, Yuan Shu, in good spirits, took the initiative to speak. Wang Dong raised his eyebrows. In his previous life, this part didn't happen. Yuan Shu just lay in his chair until he took his last breath, without saying much more. It seems the butterfly effect is starting to show some results. Fortunately, there's no major problem. The ancestors of our human civilization were actually the seed fleet of a defeated civilization. You understand what a seed fleet is, right? Wang Dong nodded. When a civilization develops to a certain extent and attempts to expand, it dispatches pioneer fleets. If a civilization is on the brink of extinction and wants to preserve the seeds of its civilization, it dispatches a seed fleet. After a 1,000-year escape, this seed fleet fortunately discovered the ruins of a prehistoric super-civilization. After a difficult journey, they uncovered the legacy of the ruins, and this seed fleet gained permission to use a mysterious creation, the Fire Seed Source. Afterward, combining humanity's own racial technology, and using the fire seeds peeled from the Fire Seed Source's shipboard fire seeds, integrated with warships of a specific structure, the Fire Seed warship came into being. Yuan Shu's eyes were deep. Wang Dong also looked slightly stunned. He had heard a little about the history of the human civilization he belonged to. But this was the first time he had heard about the origin of the Fire Seed warship. No one had ever enlightened him on this before his rebirth. Normally, between different civilizations, their creations are rarely interchangeable. After all, there are often differences in the tech trees between different civilized races. It's impossible to dismantle the standard main cannon from one civilization's warship and install it on another civilization's warship for use. That's a scenario only found in fantasy novels. Yuan Shu continued. Wang Dong nodded in agreement. To give a simple example, even between two countries on Earth, the screw calibers used might not be consistent, making them not interchangeable. How much more so between two interstellar civilizations? You use screws, but they might use bioadhesive. Can that be interchangeable? But the Fire Seed warship is different. Through the Fire Seed warship's unique module slots, even creations produced by completely different civilization systems can potentially be used normally on a Fire Seed warship. What an innovation! And this is just one of the Fire Seed warship's unique characteristics. Yuan Shu's interest grew even higher. Wang Dong nodded silently. Just this point alone made the Fire Seed warship powerful enough. Module slots are divided into two types: standard modules and additional modules. Among these, the number of standard module slots on each Fire Seed warship is constant. Destroyers, as a ship type, initially only have 5 types of standard module slots: standard main cannon, armor, engine, radar, and energy shield. There is 1 slot for each type of standard module, totaling 5. The number of additional module slots, however, is not constant. It varies depending on the quality and level of the ship hull structure, so each Fire Seed warship has a different initial number of additional module slots. This is generally between 1 and 3. Subsequently, as the ship hull structure's enhancement level increases, the number of additional module slots will also increase. Overall, the number of module slots on every Fire Seed warship is always limited and scarce. But it cannot be denied that any functional shipboard module often brings unique capabilities to a Fire Seed warship. These capabilities are often illogical and difficult to predict. Of course, this does not mean that any civilization's creation can be plug and played on a Fire Seed warship. There are still certain special requirements. Wang Dong was not clear about the specific requirements. In his brief life before his rebirth, he was always on the run, avoiding pursuit, and had not received a formal education. He only knew that it might involve some rules of the mystical system. However, this is also normal. The shipboard Fire Seed itself, and even the existence of Fire Seed warships, involves a large number of mystical rules. If everything could be clearly explained, would it still be a mystical system? However, Yuan Shu was here now and seemed to be in good spirits. The Yuan family itself was also a member of the privileged class, and their ancestors had once been prominent, so they likely knew a lot of secret information. Wang Dong's mind stirred, and he seized the opportunity to ask the doubts in his heart. Mr. Yuan, what kind of civilization's creations can serve as shipboard modules for a Fire Seed warship? It shouldn't be all of them, right? Otherwise, it would be too heaven-defying. Yuan Shu was indeed in a good mood. He did not mind Wang Dong's interruption and explained with great interest, there is indeed a threshold. Only creations acknowledged or accepted by the shipboard Fire Seed can be installed into the module slots of a Fire Seed warship and used as shipboard modules. As for the specific conditions, there is currently no precise way to determine them. There are dozens of related research schools, large and small, just within the Amethyst Kingdom. But one thing is universally recognized. That is, creations imbued with a certain belief, spirit, or containing painstaking effort during their manufacturing process have a higher chance of being accepted by the shipboard Fire Seed and can be used as shipboard modules. Wang Dong took Yuan Shu's words to heart. This was something he had not known before his rebirth. Indeed, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. Yuan Shu still had some knowledge. Seeing that Wang Dong did not press further, Yuan Shu continued his introduction. Compatibility is a major feature of Fire Seed warships. But if that were all, Fire Seed warships would not be the military reliance that allows our human civilization to dominate the stars. Another major feature of Fire Seed warships is their growth potential. Wang Dong's spirit was invigorated. Here it came. This was the true purpose of the Battleship game assist system he possessed. Relying on the unique nature of the shipboard Fire Seed, when a Fire Seed warship detects a certain spatial signal, it can, with the help of the shipboard Fire Seed, enter a different dimension distinct from this universe. Based on many years of research, we can basically confirm that this different dimension should be another universe, different from the one our civilization resides in. When a Fire Seed warship battles in the different dimension, destroying the creations of that civilization or killing its living beings, it can obtain a mysterious resource called source points. Through source points, combined with minerals or resources, various shipboard modules equipped on the Fire Seed warship can be enhanced and upgraded, increasing the warship's combat power. The speed of this enhancement is far greater than the increase in warship combat power brought by normally advancing civilizations' technological level. Combining compatibility and growth potential, each Fire Seed warship is equivalent to a divine weapon with infinite potential. As time progresses, human civilization possesses more and more divine weapons, which in turn feed back into the overall development of the civilization itself. This is the fundamental reason for our civilization's continuous prosperity. Hail Fire Seed warships, hail our human civilization. At this point, Yuan Shu, somewhat moved, gently patted the seat beneath him. Wang Dong also felt a surge of emotion. A transmigrator is also a member of humanity, and naturally feels proud of the prosperity of his civilization. Therefore, every Fire Seed warship has its uniqueness, especially Fire Seed warships that have been enhanced and upgraded to a certain extent. It's almost impossible to find two identical ones. Of course, due to the limitation of source points acquisition rate, Fire Seed warships cannot actually be infinitely enhanced and grown. The source points acquisition rate, simply put, is the efficiency with which a Fire Seed warship acquires source points. The source points acquisition rate of the first-generation Fire Seed warship is 100%. After that, each time the captain's authorization is transferred, the source points acquisition rate decreases by half. When he was the second captain, it dropped from 100% to 50%. When he was the third captain, the source points acquisition rate dropped to 25%. And so on. The source points acquisition rate actually reflects the purity of the shipboard Fire Seed. With each captain it fuses with, the purity of the shipboard Fire Seed will naturally be contaminated. In practical terms, if the first-generation captain sinks a warship of an alien space civilization and can obtain one source point, a second-generation captain sinking the same warship can only obtain 0.5 source points, and a third-generation captain 0.25 source points. After calming down slightly, Yuan Shu continued. Wang Dong gave a bitter smile. When the battle axe was in Yuan Shu's hands, it was still a second-generation ship, with a source points acquisition rate of 50%. When it was passed down to Wang Dong, it became a third-generation ship, with a source points acquisition rate of 25%. In his previous life, Wang Dong suffered a lot because of this. Fortunately, it wasn't a fourth-generation ship. If a third-generation ship still has some growth potential and certain cultivation value, a fourth-generation ship is basically used as a tool ship. Furthermore, obtaining source points is not that simple. First, for a Fire Seed warship to enter alien space, the conditions are stringent. It must be in a cosmic void region, in this astronomically simplest space, where the shipboard Fire Seed might be able to intercept spatial signals from alien space. The process of capturing an alien space signal capture is completely random. These mysterious signals appear briefly and disappear quickly, and their appearance locations are also different each time, completely without pattern. It's possible not to encounter one for 2 or 3 years, or to encounter 2 or 3 in a month. Based on long-term big data statistics, on average, each Fire Seed warship can capture an alien space signal capture about 1.8 times a year. Wang Dong smiled slightly. After the warship auxiliary system was officially activated, the first optional function was alien space signal capture. It only requires consuming 1 unit of low-level energy crystal, and the system can assist the shipboard Fire Seed in capturing alien space signal capture. The most crucial thing is that this capture does not require a specific astronomical environment. In other words, Wang Dong doesn't need to be as miserable as other Fire Seed warships, deliberately rushing to empty cosmic void belts, aimlessly cruising there year-round like a fool, waiting for the arrival of Lady Luck. Instead, he can open an alien space battlefield anytime, anywhere. This is quite strategically significant. Yuan Shu twitched his lips again. I like your confident look. Every young person believes he will be the protagonist of destiny. He interpreted Wang Dong's confidence, which came from his cheat identity, as the mysterious confidence unique to young people. Wang Dong spread his hands helplessly. Actually, everyone is the protagonist in his own destiny. Perhaps. Yuan Shu sighed softly. Secondly, even after capturing an alien space signal capture, it's not a smooth journey of harvesting. After entering alien space, the Fire Seed warship will appear in a random territory of an alien space civilization. Depending on the combat power level of the Fire Seed warship, the strength of the alien space civilization faced each time also varies. A Fire Seed warship relies on destruction to acquire source points. There is naturally no possibility of peaceful coexistence with these alien space civilizations. This kind of battle between different civilizations and races is the most brutal. Every year, many Fire Seed warships are lost in battles with alien space civilizations, with not even their remains recovered. Wang Dong also couldn't help but sigh deeply. The alien space battlefield of Fire Seed warships are all fought in the enemy's home territory, basically having to fight one against many, and the few against the multitude. This is real combat. If you die, you die. It's not a dungeon in a game where you can revive. In fact, the number of Fire Seed warships owned by this human civilization that were lost in alien space is even higher than the losses incurred in expanding territory in their own universe. Finally, there's one more thing you need to pay special attention to. His sentimentality was only momentary. Yuan Shu quickly remembered something and said with a hint of urgency. The shipboard modules on a Fire Seed warship, in their initial stages of enhancement, only require source points and some common minerals or resources. However, as the degree of enhancement increases, the required minerals and resources gradually become rarer. Especially after the initial rise of the privileged class, they began to consciously control the market for those rare minerals and resources. Until now, the privileged class has basically monopolized this supply. You are not from the privileged class and cannot easily obtain those rare minerals and resources. This is a problem you need to find a way to solve. Wang Dong nodded gravely. The privileged class achieved a monopoly on high-end military power by controlling Fire Seed warships within 3 generations and strictly prohibiting the spread of rare minerals and resources to non-privileged classes. This, in turn, solidified their ruling position. In this interstellar era, the difficulty of upward mobility is far greater than in the former Earth era. Even if commoners earned a lot of money, they couldn't acquire controlled resources like the first-generation Fire Seed warship. Tool ships after the 3rd generation were the ceiling they could reach. After educating Wang Dong on some basic knowledge about Fire Seed warships, Yuan Shu's enthusiasm waned considerably. He said with a hint of melancholy, the battle axe is actually just the most ordinary Fire Seed warship owned by my Yuan family. When the Yuan family suddenly faced a great calamity, the Jin family, in conjunction with several major powers, completely wiped out the Yuan family from top to bottom. The Yuan family's original dozen or so highly reinforced Fire Seed warships were all besieged and sunk. As the last direct bloodline of the Yuan family, I fortunately inherited part of the Yuan family's legacy, and I will dedicate my entire life to the struggle against the Jin family. Regrettably, the battle axe is far from powerful, and I myself possess no extraordinary talent. This so-called struggle is, at most, merely a nuisance like a fly to the Jin family. Younger brother Wang Dong, after you unlock the effects of the secret medicine, you should try to go into hiding and travel to a distant land, to see if you can escape the Jin family's notice. The Jin family is indeed too powerful. Wang Dong's heart immediately skipped a beat. This old man, even before his death, had to perform such a test. Before his rebirth, Wang Dong had thoroughly reviewed the relevant logs Yuan Shu left in the battle axe's optical computer. Naturally, he understood the blood feud between Yuan Shu and the Jin family, and the extent of Yuan Shu's hatred for the Jin family. He wouldn't be so foolish as to think this was Yuan Shu's, a dying man's words are good, moment. If that were truly the case, why wouldn't Yuan Shu directly remove the effects of the Yuan family's secret medicine from Wang Dong? Ultimately, this was still Yuan Shu's test of Wang Dong's intentions. Wang Dong didn't know what the consequences would be if he failed this test. But he didn't want to try. One who walks 100 li considers 90 li the halfway point. At the final critical moment, no matter what, he had to endure. Otherwise, how could he enjoy the final outcome? Mr. Yuan, given the Jin family's nature, From the moment I became the captain of the battle axe, there was no longer any basis for coexistence between us. Wang Dong said solemnly. Perhaps the Jin family is indeed irresistibly powerful to me now, but precisely because of their power, I have even less room for compromise. Even if I proactively sought out the Jin family and handed over the battle axe, with the Jin family's style, they would never easily let me go. They would only wonder if I was still hiding other legacies of the Yuan family. I don't want to die in the Jin family's dungeon. After a slight pause, Wang Dong continued, choosing his words carefully. I wouldn't dare say I must destroy the Jin family or anything like that, that's too exaggerated. But there's no doubt that the Jin family is my enemy. I will make good use of this battle axe and strive to strengthen myself. I will wait quietly until one day in the future, when the time comes, I will inflict heavy losses upon the Jin family. I believe, and I guarantee, I will do my best. Yuan Shu was silent for a long while before saying, I believe you are a smart young man who will choose the path most beneficial to yourself. Finally, it's still the same advice. Be careful of the Jin family. My interest is spent, so that's all for now. There are still some materials you need to understand, including the battle axe's past combat tactics, all available in the ship's optical computer. There wasn't enough time to organize them, so they're a bit messy, please bear with it. Wang Dong nodded silently. The conversation between the two ended there. Wang Dong felt a slight relief in his heart. This test should have been Yuan Shu's final attempt. Although there was no such scene before his rebirth, Wang Dong had handled it excellently. He shifted his attention back to reality. Wang Dong didn't forget that the battle axe still hadn't shaken off the tail behind it. Before the conversation, Wang Dong commanded the battle axe to change its hiding place twice. After the conversation with Mr. Yuan concluded, Wang Dong continued his operations. Over the next 10 hours, these operations were continuously repeated. I feel that the feng shui at this spot seems a bit better. The battle axe moved. This spot looks very pleasing to the eye, why don't we go check it out? The battle axe moved. This spot gives me a good feeling, this is it. The battle axe was still moving. The battle axe continued to move. The battle axe kept moving. The battle axe was always moving. It wasn't until Wang Dong looked back at some point and found that Yuan Shu no longer had any breath that he stopped his murmuring. Following your last wish, Mr. Yuan. I will send your remains into the battle axe's engine room. As your body turns to ash in the reactor, may your soul merge with the battle axe. Wang Dong bowed his head slightly, observing a minute of silence. Regardless, Yuan Shu personally placed the battle axe into his hands. This was the key to opening the door of destiny. Wang Dong had to express his gratitude. For the rest, please rest assured and leave it to me. Whether it's the Jin family's vengeance or the Yuan family's favor, I will do my best. Waving his hand to summon two armed mechs, Wang Dong personally destroyed Yuan Shu's remains. After completing all of this, Wang Dong finally let out a sigh of relief. He rubbed his face vigorously. My face is almost stiff. Acting really isn't easy, even if I'm playing myself. Returning to the command cabin, Wang Dong skillfully sat down in the commander's chair, naturally straightening his back. The atmosphere within the entire command cabin instantly became somewhat stern in a daze. This was the imposing aura Wang Dong had cultivated from over 10 years of captaincy in battles between life and death before his rebirth. Sitting in this familiar position, his aura naturally emerged. It had almost become a bodily instinct. That's why Wang Dong hadn't dared to sit in the commander's chair the entire time. Fortunately, Yuan Shu didn't suspect anything. To be fair, constantly being in a confined space with an existence that could crush you with a flick of his hand was not a pleasant experience. Moreover, there were many things Wang Dong couldn't expose to Yuan Shu. He had endured quite a bit during that time. We meet again, old friend. Gently caressing the commander's chair beneath him, Wang Dong sighed with emotion. Ever since his rebirth, Wang Dong had kept that string in his mind taut. Rebirth was certainly a good thing, but if he couldn't acquire the battle axe as he had before his rebirth, a large part of the meaning of rebirth would be lost. After all, Wang Dong's entire career before his rebirth could be said to have been tied to the battle axe. If he were to disregard the existence of the battle axe, Wang Dong would feel lost about the path ahead. From the moment he boarded the battle axe, Wang Dong had constantly restrained himself, and only after confirming Yuan Shu's demise could he fully unleash his emotions. He reversed the deliberate awkwardness he had displayed earlier. He skillfully entered the bottom-level database. Unlike the brief data he had previously queried, Wang Dong opened the detailed full attribute mode and began to examine it carefully. Fire Seed Destroyer Battle Axe, Comprehensive Combat Power Rating Level 55.6. Remaining Source Points, 12, Source Points Acquisition Rate, 25%. Standard Module List. Standard Main Cannon, Green, LV.2, Maximum Attack Strength, 23, Charging Time, 10 seconds, Recharging Time, Buffer Time, 50 seconds. Attack Attribute, Kinetic, Upgrade Requirements, 1. 200 Source Points, 2. 3 tons of copper ore. Standard Armor, Green, LV.1, Defense Strength, 11, Material, Alloy, Defense Attributes, Resistance to different attack attributes, Kinetic 11%, Particle 11%, Laser 11%, Mystery 0. Upgrade Requirements, 1. 200 Source Points, 2. 20 tons of Utai Mine. Standard Energy Shield, LV.2, Shield Durability, 130, Regeneration Rate, 1.2, Energy Consumption, 1 point per second, Activation Speed, 20 seconds, Overload Buffer Time, 60 minutes, Shield Type, Magnetic Field. Upgrade Requirements, 1. 100 Source Points, 2. 3 tons of iron ore. Standard Engine, LV.2, Maximum Power, 22, Energy Consumption, Full Power, 1 unit per hour. Upgrade Requirements, 1. 100 Source Points, 2. 3 tons of gas ore. Standard Sky Patrol Radar, LV.1, Exploration Range, 10, Accuracy, 10, Upgrade Requirements, 1. 100 Source Points, 2. 2 tons of arcane copper ore. Standard Ship Hull Structure, Green, LV.0, Ship Hull Structure Strength, 20, Additional Module Slots, 3, Fire Seed Compatibility, 48%, Upgrade Requirements, 1. 2000 Source Points, 2. 1 unit of titanium crystal. Additional Module List. Flying Mare Warp Device, Purple, LV.0, Energy Consumption, 100 time, Warp Speed, 100 times the speed of light, Charging Time, 1 hour, Buffer Time, 24 hours. Additional Attribute, Fast Warp within 0.1 light years, ignores warp time, instantaneous arrival. Fast Warp function has a separate buffer time of 24 hours. Upgrade Requirements, 1. 400 Source Points, 2. 1 unit of titanium crystal. Quantum Entanglement Brainwave Control System, Green, LV.0, Energy Consumption, 1 unit per hour. Effect. When activated, the commander can remotely control the warship via brainwaves. Range. 0.01 light years. Upgrade Requirements. 1. 200 Source Points, 2. 1 ton of gas ore. Mirage System, Gold, LV.0, Energy Consumption, 100 units time. Charging Time, 1 hour. Duration, 24 hours. Buffer Time, 24 hours. Additional Attribute. Mirage, the warship enters stealth mode, possessing strong concealment, 60. Upgrade Requirements. 1. 500 Source Points, 2. 2 units of titanium crystal. Material List. Standard Main Cannon Ammunition remaining, 123 rounds. Secondary Cannon Ammunition remaining, 2012. Energy remaining, 2,298. Living Supplies remaining, 393 units. It was indeed exactly as he remembered from his previous life. The 5 standard modules, Standard Main Cannon, Armor, Engine, Radar, and Energy Shield. As for the ship hull structure, it was a rather special module. It was equivalent to the main structure of the warship. Thanks for watching.